Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Unmade Gaming charity stream. We are here for our fourth and final game of the day. We are a little bit over halfway to our goal, not quite there yet, but we can see if we can hit it in the next 4 hours. We are here for another Magpie game special called the Crossroads Carnival, brought to us by our unofficial Magpie game streamer, Petra, who has introduced us to the majority of their games. So let's jump around, introduce our cast and crew here, and we'll start with Petra. Petra, who are you? Where can we find you on the internet? And tell us a little bit about the Crossroads Carnival.
Yeah. Hey. Yeah, I'm Petra. You can find me on Twitter, and as always, that's the sentence I always say at this point. I'm going to post, or maybe Mike, you can do that. Post my Twitter handle on in the chat because it has my lovely German family name.
I can do that.
Volkhausen. Try spelling that correctly. Yeah, and what am I doing here? Who am I? I'm a college educator. I'm a writer, a nerd of many things. And yes, tonight I am DMing the second Magpie game for today and in general, which is called Crossroads Carnival. And very quickly, a few weeks back at Gen Con, I picked up a copy of this. So this is the Ashcan version of Crossroads Carnival, means that it's an early version. It has been tested multiple times, but it's still, yeah, in trial, so to speak. And I was immediately drawn in by the title and the artwork. And as Mike, or as we already said, it's published by Magpie Gaming, or Magpie Games, and the author is Kate Bullock. And it is also another game powered by the Apocalypse. So if anybody watched the really cool Bluebeard Sprite game this morning, if a move comes into play, if something needs to be decided by rolling dice, it's just going to be 2d6. And yeah, all in all, the mechanics are very easy to get into. And I think I'm going to say a little bit more about that after we said hi to everybody.
Perfect. Another fan of weird, wacky, powered by the Apocalypse games. Eric, who are you? Where can we find you on the internet? And who are you playing today?
Yeah, hey everybody, I'm Eric. I'm Eric Vulgaris everywhere, and I'm a luxury you can afford.
Fucking goddamn it.
I play a lot of weird games all the time. I can't get enough of tabletop role-playing games. PBTA is a specialty. I was super excited. I've been following the designer for a little bit, seeing all the things that she's been working on, and I've been super excited for this game. And then when Petra mentioned that they got this version of the game, they wanted to run it, you should have saw my face when I heard about that. I was like, oh my god, I have to do this. So I'm super excited to be here. It's a long time coming, and yeah, that's me. Back to you.
Sweet. We'll jump over to another fan of wacky, weird things. Mr. Ninja, who are you? Where can we find you on the internet? And who are you playing today?
I am Ginger Ninja, and you can find me everywhere. It's the same thing, guys. But I'm also super excited to be playing. I love when Petra runs games because they're creepy, weird, and the horror isn't like cheesy horror. Whenever we play horror games, it takes a lot of time and effort. You can tell that the stories are, she thinks everything up and does her research.
No, I'm like, oh my god, did I do cheesy horror this time? Will I disappoint her?
No, it's gonna be awesome. I'm pretty pumped. But I'm gonna be playing the geek, which is not in your standard definition of geek, if you know Carnival characters.
Oh yeah, people will find out soon, very soon.
That's all I got.
Sweet. And we'll jump over to last but not least, Courtney. Who are you? Where can we find you on the internet? And who are you playing today?
Muted.
You love starting muted. Perfect. 10 out of 10. Guys, Courtney's a professional streamer. She does it in her off time. You can tell by how long she's muted for. Nope, you're still muted. Still? Hold on, I got you. There you go. Now you're not muted anymore. Yep.
Yeah.
You got it.
Okay. Awesome.
Now, Courtney, who are you? Where can we find you on the internet? And who are you playing today?
I'm Cornelius. I'm playing a mermaid. I'm playing Lorelei the mermaid. This is going to be super interesting. I've never played a character like this before. I put together a real piece of work. Like Mike said, I stream occasionally. Um, let's be honest, I'm not professional here. Um, um, I'm really looking forward to this. In fact, I think all four of us were there when Petra was talking about the game that she had just picked up, and we were like, we want
Yeah.
to play this. And so
It was the last
like,
day.
okay, one person, two, three, we're all gonna play this in the next charity stream. Awesome. So I'm super stoked.
Yeah, if you guys can go to Gen Con next year, that's where the magic happens. And by magic, I mean that's where a bunch of nerds get together and buy a bunch of nerdy stuff and then talk about nerdy stuff and then play nerdy stuff, which I think is magic. So yeah, guys, before we hand things over to Petra, first of all, I am playing Atlas Massimo. He is the strongman of the circus. And as a reminder, this is a charity stream, so 100% of the proceeds go to Extra Life Kids. We are a little bit over halfway to our goal, so if we can hit that in the next 3 hours, that would be super dope. You guys can donate for Nat 1s, Nat 20s, all kinds of cool stuff like that, and you force Petra to figure out what the hell that means for Powered by the Apocalypse games, because their rules are very different. But either way, we'll have fun doing it. And with that, Petra, take us to the carnival.
We'll do very quickly. Eric, who are you going to play? Just to give a nice little juicy preview to our
Yes, yeah, of course. I'm so sorry to introduce my character.
No, just name and role is perfectly fine.
Yeah,
And then...
sure. I'm Zoltar, the Seer.
Okay. Let me give you a quick rundown of what the narrative format of Crossroads Carnival actually looks like. Like, not you players, but for the audience. So Crossroads Carnival is set in the 30s in America. So it's a time of the Great Depression. Life in general is fucking miserable. And if that weren't already bad enough, the darkness has come or befallen the land and probably the whole world. And it started several years back with really, really terrible sandstorm that took down complete power grids, dried out the crops, and once they were gone, there were swarms of locusts descending on the towns, on the cities, making just everything even worse. And people were terrified, people died, and for those who survived, because there's still a good deal of humans there, but life isn't exactly rosy. People are just, getting by, they're hungry, they're parched, and they die on occasion. And they are convinced that the end is nigh, and they're actually right about that. Because there are dark things haunting their dreams and creatures lurking in the shadows, trying to prey on those poor humans, not just for their flesh, but also for their mind, you might say, because when you live in misery and you have your kids dying in your arms, striking a deal with the devil is but a small price to pay. And as it just so happens, our players or the characters are also monsters or supernatural beings who, however, for one reason or another, and they can tell us about that in a bit, decided to fight for humanity and for the soul of humanity, which is a little bit tricky if you are a monster on the inside and the darkness is calling to you, and often in order to fight the darkness they have to indulge their own dark side to do that. And so fighting fire with fire or darkness with darkness, what can possibly go wrong? Well, what can go wrong is that their monster side might take over, and that's not very nice to look at. But so when you're playing this game, you are witnessing the fight between good and evil. Although, as I already said last week when we met for our session 0, good, I think, is relative in this game, because you will be hard pressed to find something that is truly innocent or untainted in this world. So fun times. And so the basic structure of each session, and by the way, this is a game that you can just run as a one-shot, or you can easily spread it out and turn it into a mini campaign. And each session works that way that the carnival for which our characters or the player characters work, they're carnival performers. So each session, the carnival rolls into a new town and tries to find out how the darkness has corrupted this town, and then they deal with it. Ideally, they deal with it by persuading the whatever evil thing they find to leave the town alone, to just, go. And which might require them to strike a deal on their own and then deal with the consequences later. It might, however, also happen that they just fight the thing, whatever it is, and do a lot of destruction in their wake, which from a narrative perspective is probably a lot of fun. But if that is the way that our game ends tonight, it would basically be a victory, one little victory for the darkness and all the dark creatures fighting for it. So being violent in this game definitely has its price. Quickly, let's talk just about the mechanics, or just a couple of things that I haven't mentioned. So there will be moves. As soon as if somebody wants to do something specific, for example, leashing out with violence, getting an idea, taking stock, where is something that might threaten me, it triggers certain moves, and then people roll, and then we find out what happens. Every Powered by the Apocalypse game comes with very few stats. In this case, it's just 4, and they will basically give each character different boons, or a bane or a penalty when they roll certain things. Characters might take harm, so physical harm. They have to mark darkness most of the time when they use their monster side maybe a little bit too much, or in the face of evil if they embrace that evil. And should one of our characters tonight happen to mark the 5th darkness, their monster side will take over. And they can sort of calm down. Every character, every playbook comes with a specific mechanic to calm the character down, so to get them back into control of their humanity. But if not, there's risk that they might just stay a monster forever. Darkness very quickly can be healed by offering or providing solace for each other, just spending a quiet moment. And again, every playbook has a different way of providing solace. And characters can heal in this game. It's not that easy. One long rest heals you 1 point of harm, or you might find somebody who has some healing skills, although it might come at a cost. Okay, let's go into our story. So the Crossroads Carnival has been traveling eastwards, and a couple of days ago they pulled into this really small town named Ewing, somewhere on the border strip between Colorado and Oklahoma. And population 400, 500, something like that. And the moment you pulled in with your caravans and the trucks, and there were a couple of cars, all of you could tell that this little town, Ewing, must have been a very lush town at some point, because there are endless areas of fields, like one field after another, all around this little town. And also what seemed to have been pastures at one point. But for the most part, it's just the soil seems to be dead and dried up. And we will start with the second night. And you will be asked for the second night of performances. The performers will be asked to pull a one night only. So during the day, the Barkers went to the town, downtown Ewing, and announced that tonight it would be a one night only. And you all know what that means, namely that you have to add something special to your normal routine, something that will never be witnessed again, ever, by anybody on Earth. For you, unofficially, that just means just until you hit the next town, or maybe the town after that, so you can recycle old material. But the management is very eager, almost desperate actually, to pull in more people this night, because for some reason you haven't been able to yet to find out what's wrong with this town. How has the darkness corrupted it? Which is very unusual, because the boss wouldn't have let you here if something weren't up. And the boss is nobody, and none of you know exactly who the boss is, because he lives in his own little caravan. You have a good idea that he must be some kind of powerful, dangerous creature, but he never shows himself to anybody but the manager Dolores and Ulysses, the illusionist. So as the evening rolls around and people start streaming onto the carnival grounds, there's a lot of noise. You hear music. The Ferris wheel is slowly turning in the back, as does the carousel. And you hear children laughing, although they're not that many, but there are. And especially for them, it's a nice opportunity to just forget about how terrible and bleak their normal life is. And in the area, in the official area, or official carnival area that is free and open for the public, or the Roops, you have several tents, because each of the performers, or the main acts I should say, have their own little tent where you will be welcoming your audience. And you will give several shows, probably 5, 6 throughout the evening, so that everybody who comes and visits tonight can see all of you. And there's a smell of popcorn in the air and cotton candy, but also like dust and grease. And we see Dolores. Dolores is the manager. She's fairly short, always wearing a 3-piece suit, and makeup that's several shades too light. Almost makes her looking like one of the clowns. And over her really short cropped hair, she wears a wig. Every day she wears a different wig. And today it's a bob. It's a black bob. And on that bob, she smushed a top hat. Let's see if that's gonna stick. It's kind of embarrassing that my own grandfather's top hat does not really fit on my head. But oh well. And so she always walks with a little bit of a hunch. And she checks her pocket watch and she sees it's about 5:55.
Can we just discuss that you have a top hat at the ready for a second?
Yeah.
Is it? No one else gonna
Listen,
mention
you're
that?
ruining my immersion.
The fact that you have a collapsible top hat just at the ready?
This, and I'm not joking, this is it used to be my grandfather's. So
I believe you.
And many years back, I brought it with me from my parents during one of my visits, and I never really had a use for it until today.
I'm glad we could help out.
Killing it, Petra. Keep going.
Jesus Christ. Wow! Top hat. I was like, what the fuck? Awesome.
Alrighty, so Dolores checks her pocket watch, and then she waddles over to a tiny stage, almost more like a stepping stool. And she spreads her arms wide and she goes, "Welcome, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between and beyond. Welcome to Crossroads Carnival. It is time, my friends. Our performers are awaiting you. They are ready for you. So what are you still doing here? Go, go, go. They want to see you." And as she's giving a little speech, and her voice carries far, even though she's not using any visible help, but you can definitely hear her all the way where you are in your tents. And as she's giving her little speech, her eyes wander over the crowd, and whenever she sees a child, her smile grows a little bit wider and her eyes linger just for a moment before she continues to look on. And then she just, shoos off the audiences. And Zolta, we will first cut to your tent. There's already a small audience eagerly awaiting in front of it, and we see a woman who holds a little cart. A pitch card it's called, and on one side is a black and white photo of yours, and then when she turns it around and she shows it to her, presumably the husband, there is your life story, or allegedly your life story. Every performer has such a card, and it's sold like merchandise, to just get the people interested in every performer. But yeah, the life story.
Awesome.
But the life story on the back is either
it's completely made up.
extremely exaggerated or extremely made up. Yes.
Oh, totally. I am totally a baron of like either like Hungary or Romania, something like very Eastern European, with like faux mysticism. Not quite going into like the whole like Vlad the Impaler thing, but like definitely along the lines of like heir apparent to a kingdom that fell under dark days and came to America, and or like cursed to, like his family got rid of him because of his powers to pierce the veil of death and life, and thought he was not had to eschew his royal blood or whatever, and so that's totally like my kind of story here. And yeah, and so
I love it, and yeah, and you hear that woman, she's just nudging her husband. It's like, oh, he's a baron. This is so exciting. And then Zolta, tell me, what do people see when the tent flap is finally opened and one of the crew members ushers the people in? What do they see when they get into your tent?
Yes. So in front, it's a very humble stage of just a simple, like circular, like poker table with a nice, like, velvet or like sanguine colored cloth draped over it. Above are sort of like either like Ottoman or like very like Eastern European-ish like decorations of style. Like there's a nice like old like ornate chair sitting there, and I'm nowhere to be seen at the start. And there's like a crowd murmuring, and then finally, as like the lights and stuff kind of go dim, except for like a single like stage light over the table, and that's when we see like this shadowy figure with like coattails, clearly wearing like very ornate kind of clothes, but they're out of date, like what a noble would have been wearing 50 years ago. Right. And in front of you is something of like a mix between Salvador Dali and Christopher Lee. Is this older gentleman with a beautiful cravat, like a golden cravat, and like black and gold trims. You can just kind of see like my pocket watch would go. And and as the light's dangling over me, like I sort of get into my spiel as like the crowd kind of hummers down, and I say, everyone be quiet real quick. And I hold out my watch, right? And we hear like the tick 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 of the clock, and I say, time is something special, something you cannot touch, yet affects every moment of our lives. What you're about to see here is the ability, a gift, some would say a curse. As I look away from the clock and I show the clock to everyone else as it's going back in time, of the power to see through both ways of time.
And yeah, there's a murmuring and going through the crowd. Yeah. And so tell us, what does your usual performance look like? So every performance, it doesn't last super long, about 20 minutes or so, again, to make sure that everybody who came tonight can see all of the acts. But what does usually happen during your performances?
Right. So I probably start with a little bit of cartomancy. Like I do a little bit of like prediction of tarot for an audience member, and then I kind of like for like the main event part of it. I definitely ask somebody about the darkness, or like it's like everyone's been touched by like loss at this point, right? So the idea of a medium who can talk and let you commune with the dead is probably in high demand, and so I do this. However, it's probably a plant. I have in the audience. Someone that we work with.
There are definitely plans in every performance tent in case the audience is not very receptive or not very cooperative. However, tonight, at least for the first show, you won't have any problems finding somebody to cooperate with.
Oh, okay.
The woman, you know, who was
Right.
looking at your pitch card, she would willingly or very eagerly, in fact, sort of ask you to read the cards for her. And Zolta, what would you be willing to share with us about your origin? Are you a monster?
No. At least I hope not.
Sure.
Am I a monster? No. But there is power, and they say about what power is that power corrupts, right? So we'll see. I'm immortal with power, and well, does that make me a monster? We'll see.
I don't know. But basically, Zoltar is able to peek into people's future and past. And is there anything else you would like to tell us about? I'm just probing
Yeah, totally. No,
if you want to
yeah,
share that with the audience.
absolutely, yeah, because it's a one shot, and so I think it'd be important to know is that there is definitely a sort of like grim, almost sort of like gothic tone to the way he holds, like he belongs in the Addams family, and there's definitely a pervasive sense that while he is alive and old and stuff, there is definitely a sense of like loss in himself, that he has lost something dear. Pervasive sense of loss. And perhaps after the event and we're going around, you see he opens up the watch one more time and the ticking has stopped. And instead he like presses like the timer part of the watch and it opens up and it's a locket and his beloved's face is still there, and kisses it and closes it again as he gets ready for the next performance.
Yeah, and in your mind you would hear the very soft and gentle chuckle of a woman's voice.
Yeah.
And Zolta, for how long have you been with the Carnival?
Nearly all of my life. In fact, I don't remember a time before that. I think I ran away from home back when I was like really, really, really young, and I've spent all of my formative time growing up in the Carnival.
And how old are you approximately at this?
I'm something like pushing 70.
All right. And then just something mechanics related, because I realized we didn't talk about that last week. So for the audience out there, every player starts with 2 moves. So there's a row of basic moves that everybody can use, and every character comes with a couple of character specific moves.
Yeah, totally. Mm-hmm.
And so you have the cards.
Yes.
Right? And then you are also allowed to
just select one more.
Yeah. Which one did you go with?
I went with Portents of Doom. Should I explain that, or should we just play Z?
You can read the description for Portents of Doom just to remind myself.
No problem. So first, Portents of Doom is whenever I strike a deal, which is a basic move. Whenever I strike a deal, I may mark something that's called darkness, which is sort of bad. But if I do that, if I make this deal with darkness, I can foresee how things might end poorly, and I can remove a future consequence.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so Zoltar, your evening, again, it's the second evening, goes by relatively or pretty uneventful.
Sure.
Just the usual. However, as you get to your last performance, you see someone among your audience who you recognize. It's a young lad, 15, 16 years of age, maybe, kind of lanky, and you see blonde hair peeking out from underneath his cap. And he was there last night as well, same time. And just like last night, he is staying back, but a little bit off to the side so has a good view of you. And he stands there with the hands stuffed in his pockets. And last night, you had the distinct feeling that when your last show was over and everybody was asked to leave the tent, that he wanted to step up to you and just say
Didn't
something,
didn't have
but
the
you
courage.
saw him blush furiously and then just haste out. And the same is about to happen a second time.
Totally.
So one of the crew members is saying, "Okay, everybody, we're done for tonight. Please leave the tent." And he sort of falling behind, shuffling his feet, and kind of
Looking
at
back
you.
every so often, and
Yeah.
totally. I know that look all the time, and so I spot that, and I'm not sure I want to talk to him yet or not. And what I'm doing right now is doing that classic, like I did that. I kissed the thing, put it back, and I see him like getting ready to shuffle out, like one of the last couple, and I do that like quizzically raise an eyebrow thing, and I'm trying to look at like kind of like assess him, and like I do have a little bit of premonition, and be like, do I want to follow my hunch here or not, right? And so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to keep an eye out for trouble, and I specifically about this person.
Could you do me a favor and read the short description for keep an eye out for trouble, if you have it in front of you?
No, I do. I actually have it as a handout in Roll20 too.
Hey.
So when I keep an eye out for trouble, I roll plus guile. On a hit, I take +1 forward on any of the answers that I've found.
Yeah, and if you have a full or hard success, like 10 high, you can even ask 2.
Right.
And then on 7 to 9, but you can sort of save one question for later if you want to. And then 7 to 9 is
right.
7 to 9 is okay.
And what I'm doing right now is when I'm analyzing him and checking my gut is that I'm like a bloodhound for loss, right? I can smell it on everybody. Like I just have that sense. And so I can size someone up and know their story about what went wrong. So I'm gonna roll guile.
Do that.
2d, not d26, 2d6. And my guile is +2. So 12.
Oh, that's a
great roll.
huge
Greatrolls.com is my homepage. I like to start with one question. I like to hold the other one for now. And I would like to know what dark truth is hidden here, and here probably this person.
Mm-hmm. So this boy is definitely not human.
Yeah.
He's a creature of the darkness, but at the same time he is a lost soul. So you looking at him, just the way he stands there and sort of he peeks over at
Pitiful.
you can you can tell for sure that he's not here to harm you. He is lost.
Yeah. So then I'll call out and be like, "You there, in the back."
And he goes sort of, but there's nobody left anymore. And then
come. No, it's okay. It's okay. And like I wave off the helpers, like, come on.
And so he walks over and
hands in his pocket, kicking the dirt kind of thing.
Kicking the dirt. I'm really sorry. I know it's the last show and everything. So I was just it's really stupid, but I was wondering if you could tell me. And you see, actually, it starts as he stammers around. His eyes peek at your carts. Then he looks back at you and he says, "If I wanted to work here, what would I have to do?"
The Carnival is no place for someone as bright as you, and everyone can see that. You're destined to greater things.
Oh, you call him right, sir? That's awfully kind. My daddy would have something quite different to say about that. And he kind of
I can tell real quick.
again.
Do I know if his dad's alive or dead when he says that? I feel like I would know that, right?
Yeah, you can sense that, but you also sense that dad doesn't necessarily really mean dad.
Got it. Okay.
D-A-D, not D-E-A-D.
Sure. Okay.
And I'm just I think I might be better off here. Like, I was just, it's just really stupid. And then he
So-
actually begins to turn around, sort of feeling super embarrassed about the whole thing.
No, I laugh. I kind of because I kind of like stir on it, right? I'm letting it marinate in my mind, running over the different ideas here, and you know, I don't think I offer him anything. I let him go. I say, kid, come here,
Okay,
and
okay.
real quick, and I say, there might be a lot going on between, like, behind those eyes of yours. But know that a carnival is not as safe as you think. It's better to stand up to whatever it is than hide.
But you see, the thing is, I don't want to hide anymore. And then he looks back again. There's nobody in the tent. Or actually, briefly, the crew member looks in. Just, you're
Yeah.
right, Zoltar? Everything fine?
No, it's okay. It's good.
Okay, I'm closing up here then, because Zoltar, you can exit in the back. And then the kid goes, I just wanted to show you something. And then you see this really cute, sweet boy. And for a brief moment, his human features vanish and become, they sort of recede, and his nose becomes flatter, and just the features become flatter, almost like a mask, and his skin becomes really gray, and overall he becomes really nondescript. And I would say, you would know, you've maybe run into one of them, that this boy is a changeling. And you would also know that changelings don't exactly have, like, pretty much like any monster who's trying to live the human life, it's not easy.
Right. You're
for
never going to
them.
fit in.
Yeah. And then he changes back. It just lasts a second or two. He changes back, and then he blushes again and just looks down on the ground.
Yeah. Like, I'm not like shocked or revolted. Who's the next like in the train of like shows? Who would be the next person? Because I feel like I'm not the person. Zoltan is not the comforting type, and while this kid needs comfort, I'm totally gonna pass the buck and be like, go. I tell you what, like, after seeing this, I'm like, talk to so and so. Like, they're the person you want to talk to.
Yeah, you
know what I
wouldn't
mean?
you wouldn't be able to make this decision.
Right.
You would have to send him to Dolores.
Okay. Well, I know, but like, I also don't want to be the person who even like advocates for this kid. But I want to push him to the person who I know of the community who's going to advocate for this kid, because I do want to help, and that's Zoltan's way of helping. I'm not going to stick my neck out personally and like champion this person's cause, but I will guide them from the side, and and push them to the person who I know will actually be like, oh, you should talk to so and so.
Yeah. Then you would send him to Ulysses.
And obviously, yeah. Who?
Ulysses,
Okay.
she is the illusionist, and you, Dolores, and Ulysses, you are the oldest. Well, in addition to Miss Ginger Ninja's character, you're the oldest or longest members in this group. And you know that Ulysses, she has a way of dealing with Dolores better than anybody else. And
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Then I tell him you should totally see Ulysses. Like, she has a way, and can help you out more than I can.
And he looks up when you say that, and he just smiles widely. You can tell that he expected to just be kicked out right away, and he says, "Really, thank you. I will do that. I saw her show last night, and thank you, sir."
Dope.
And then he just leaves the tent, and going to cut the scene here.
Yeah. Poor kid, as I say, as I hands in my pockets and leave.
And then we switch over to the next tent, and it says Lorelei the Mermaid. And just like every other performance tent, it has a neat little banner next to it, with like a stylized painting of every performer.
Sure.
And yeah, just like with Zoltar, people are flocking to your tent, like, mermaid, it's like a real mermaid. This can't possibly be.
Mhm.
And tell me, Lorelai, what do people see when they enter your tent?
So just the description of like basically the stage, right?
Yeah, do they see your
Okay.
tank right away? Do they see you right away?
So I think they see the tank first. It's just this massive tank. There's really no platform for a stage there. It's just this massive tank in the middle of the tent, right? And it's, oh, I'd say maybe uh, 10, 15 feet deep. As far as how deep the water is, and it's all decorated. There's all kinds of. I mean, it looks like a seafloor basically, and that is that's all they see at first. So everybody's getting settled down, and all they see is this massive tank, and they're like, "What the hell?" And so once everybody gets into their seats, um, the lights are uh, the lights are dimmed. Um, and it's almost completely dark except for a couple of lights that are pointed at the tank. And then you start to hear very soft harp music being played, and it's hard to tell where it's coming from until another spotlight comes up, and it's coming from the roof, and there is a what appears to be a trapeze bar, and there's a girl sitting up on the bar, one hand one arm around one of the ropes, and the other, she's playing a flute with both hands, but she does have an arm around the rope just to keep herself stabilized. And so as that begins to lower, she's playing. She doesn't have her tail. I mean, it's literally just a girl sitting there, uh, and dressed like a girl who's just gone to the beach and is just hanging out. So as the trapeze bar lowers, it gets to about, I'd say, 10 feet above the bar. She finishes her song and extends her arms out. She falls backwards, and all of the spotlights center on her as she falls. And you can just hear this gasp from the crowd. And as she enters the water, her legs disappear. And like as she enters the water, it's just her tail.
It's like, did you
Yeah.
see that?
And so she
And
starts.
at that, people would start moving to the tank. They're always asked to not bang, just like in an aquarium. Don't
Right.
bang on the glass.
Mhm.
But everybody is just like, they're not banging, but everyone's like, oh, what's going on?
Sure. And so she starts to, I mean, she swims abnormally fast, and begins to kind of circle around, letting people kind of see her for what she is. Swims close to the glass, is waving at the kids, and then withdraws to about the middle of the tank and starts doing these like flips and stuff like that. Swims to the bottom, will gain enough speed swimming to the top and do some sweet acrobatic kind of stuff. And pause for a moment as everybody watches, and then do some other neat tricks like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. I love it. And as always, at the beginning of the evening, there are definitely more children, and then as the evening progresses, there are fewer of them.
Yeah.
And you always have a mixed crowd, and you always have, I would say, three types of visitors. The children just totally believe that you are a mermaid. How could you not be a mermaid?
Sure.
Then you have people who want to believe but are still skeptical, and they watch you very closely, not in a lewd kind of way, just how does she do it, where how does she where how did she cover up her legs, how does it go?
Right.
And then the third kind of visitor that you have are the ones that just want you all of you for themselves, and they're not
Right.
hiding it. And especially as the evening progresses, you have more and more drunk guys who just give you very, very clear, lasting looks, and then the drunker they get. And there are definitely guys who, instead of going to every other tent throughout the evening, they come back, which is okay. There's always someone with you in the tent just in case they start reaching into the tank. Otherwise, they stay in the background so as to not piss off the roops. And at some point, I would say second or third. Oh no, sorry, I have to go back. Forget the other things. You already told us about your act. What would you like to share with us regarding your origin, Little Mermaid?
Um, I think it would have had to have been fairly made up. Most of what she remembers about her life in general has been from the previous carnival where she came from, and so when she was brought into this show and this act, she kind of just made stuff up. She kind of followed Zoltar's lead on that, and was just kind of making stuff up. So she claims to be a lost uh, princess of sorts from northwestern Europe, and so makes up all kinds of stuff about the palace that she lived in, and the things that she got to do, and when she found out that she was what she was, she ran away and came all the way to the United States on her own.
Okay. And then, real quick, so you two have two moves. The first is the siren song, and then which is the second one that you chose?
I went with I used Siren Song as the music to begin the act, and then the
I hope you didn't
second
make their ears bleed.
no,
Because that's
no,
one
not
thing
at
the
all.
mermaid can do, theoretically.
Yes. Um, so the second one, I used Beauty from Below. So as right there at the beginning, as I entered the water, my legs disappeared, and it was the tail, and so I let more of that side of me show. So with the tail, some scales and such, like on her arms, and the rest of her body. Um, help me out here. It says when revealing aquatic features, you may roll grace instead of guile to strike a deal. Basically, I kind of I kind of intended to use that as to make it that much more believable.
Oh yeah, that you wouldn't even have to really go and strike a deal with anybody. Everybody is just mesmerized as soon as you show more of your mermaid self. And so you're basically still in the process of transformation, right? Like you're
Yes.
becoming more and more of a mermaid year after year.
Yeah.
And you haven't been long with this carnival, right?
Couple of months. Yeah.
Just a couple of months. So
Not very long.
the newbie on the team. All right. So for you as well, there's nothing really unusual that happens. At least nothing threatening. All of you were asked to pay special attention to just maybe get a feel how is the darkness, um, as what is the darkness masquerading this time,
Sure.
and then second or third um, performance, there's a family of three standing close by your tank. Hey, Kitty. And you see the mother who has her hands resting on her daughter's shoulder. The daughter is like 7, 8, and she has braided pigtails, and she just beams at you with the biggest eyes. And then she says something to her mom, and her mom just nods in agreement and points at you and smiles.
Mhm.
And how does it make you feel when you see that family together looking at you, watching your performance?
Oh, it's lovely. As soon as I see that, I'm that much more enthusiastic about my performance. Just seeing that. Um, the longer they remain, though, um, while she is still, just spot on with the things that she's doing in her show, when her eyes fall on that family, there's almost a sense of sadness.
Mm-hmm. And then at some point, there's a guy that shoves past, or two guys actually that shove past that family, kind of not really knocking the girl over, but a little bit brusquely, sort of, to get a closer look at you. And they're, definitely drunk and sort of looking at you. Look at that, she's got a tail. Like, how do you figure she's gonna fuck someone and stuff like that? And so,
Sure.
right, just putting it all out there. Honestly, I wondered that myself, and that
I wish
I'm
the
just
top
gonna
half were a
leave-
fish.
Wait.
What? Swap them, yeah.
Oh my
Okay,
god.
sure.
And then, yeah, they give you very suggestive looks and say, we're gonna see each other again later tonight.
Oh.
But for now, we're gonna cut it here. Thank you so much. And we're going to Atlas's tent. And above the entrance to Atlas's tent, it says Atlas is strong man. And then there's also a banner with a painting of Atlas, probably lifting a terrible big weight, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Atlas, tell us, what do the people see when they come into your tent?
So Atlas takes up a large portion of the tent, and he is top to tails in the traditional strongman garb. He is in the unitard with the one arm kind of thing going on there. He looks very much like a Andre the Giant kind of thing, and it's like the red and white striped number. And around there you have very obvious weights that have like the weight on there in like bold white face, so you can see just how strong he is. And then there's like behind him there are several far more elaborate sets of weights. One in particular that he likes to use in his show is a large barbell, but instead of the large weights at the base, it is two metal like iron banded baskets that he puts people in and lifts them up one-handed. But yeah, when you enter the room, he is a pretty imposing looking guy. He's massive, right? He's probably a good like 300 pounds of muscle, and he's like 6'5". He has like slicked back hair, and he has one of those traditional handlebar mustaches, ready for twirling with wax. But there is like if you ever look at an elephant in a circus, that's what his eyes look like. He looks like he's a sad elephant in a circus. Like, he doesn't want to be here, but he knows he has to be here, and he knows he has a job to do, and he knows that to do his job, he has to put on this stupid show for these stupid idiots. And yeah, he's just like a quiet, soulful kind of guy. But as soon as people come in, he becomes this fake, loud, and boisterous, "Come on, come on, welcome, welcome, welcome," as they enter the tent. And the back of his pitch card describes him as inhuman, a Goliath of a man born from stone, with life breathed into him by the gods themselves. And they paint him as a demigod, which, truth be told, is accurate. He felt no need to embellish his story because he found his story quite compelling as it was.
And nobody will really believe it anyway.
And nobody has believed it to begin with. So yeah, he definitely just blasted out his story that he is a demigod, and that he has he has lived innumerable amount of years. He is incredibly strong. His strength knows no bounds. He can lift anything. He's up for any challenge, and he has fought his way across the world to this very circus. And yeah, his act is. It's pretty simple, right? There's not a whole lot to strongmen. He picks things up and puts them down, and then picks other things up and puts them down. He does.
There's a lot of oohing and eyeing going
Right.
on every time.
The finale show, which is probably not, if tonight's the one night only performance, he'll do the finale show, which is the cannonball to the stomach thing. But that's probably not the first show. That's definitely like later in the day, because he knows the first show will always have a lot of people. and later it just sort of lags on. So he wants that the concept of there's a big thing coming
That's
at the
fair.
end. So he wants to have people throughout the day. But yeah, he goes from normal weights where he picks things up, and he'll like pick up a member of the crowd and like have them hold the weight. When they fall over, he'll pick up the weight and the person. He has a SpongeBob style elaborate thing where like the stands are actually a weight, and he picks up the stands with all the people standing on them. It only goes up a few inches, but it's a tent, so he doesn't want to lift it over his head. But yeah, he continuously just picks up heavy things, puts people in the basket things, and lift those up. One hands it, that kind of thing.
This is wonderful. I love it. How old does Atlas appear to be?
Atlas appears to be in his mid-30s.
Mm-hmm. And since I forgot to ask Courtney, she said that, and Courtney, if you hear me,
Yes.
correct me. If you said about 19-ish,
Yeah.
Lorelai's age.
Yeah.
So she's a teenager, kind of, or the young one of the group. Okay,
She's a
back
baby.
to back to Atlas. Your move. So you start with the move, the strength of 10 men, to
Do.
basically get from people what you want, or otherwise inflict pain, a lot of pain. What's the second move that you picked?
The second one I picked is unflinching. When you endure the darkness by suffering in stoic silence, roll plus bones instead of plus breath. On a miss, bones break instead of giving you strength. You take 2 harm.
Ouch. Okay.
Oof.
Yeah, he is a stoic giant and shoulders the weight of the world on his back.
Okay. Just like for your comrades, the night start off as usual. You sort of keep an eye on the audience, but for the first couple of shows, nothing stands out to you. But then, second to last show, there's this woman, sort of further towards the front. She has blonde locks and a simple dress. It's a little bit dirty, but I mean, it's always dusty, it's always dry, and honestly, everybody is dirty most of the time. And she has her hands folded over her belly, which is slightly enlarged, and she has this very gentle smile on her face. And as she's watching you, almost kind of dreamily, she's just sort of swaying a little bit from side to side. And so everybody's going, ooh, and yeah, show us that, do this, can you do this? And she's just standing there watching you with this almost out of focus kind of look. And then as the show is over and everybody leaves, she also leaves, but then you see her stumble and sort of almost topple over, and she catches herself and but continues to walk in a kind of hunched over way, wrapping one arm around herself, and you see her leave the tent.
Atlas has a soft spot for humanity, and especially because they are weak. And if he sees her stumble and what looks to be in pain or struggling, he would get out of his tent and go check on her.
Okay, you will have no trouble finding her, because basically what she did is just she left the tent, just took a left turn in between your tent and the one next to you, which is where the conjoined twins are, and she is throwing up. So she has one hand gripping the side of your tent, kind of trying to steady herself, and just vomiting violently on onto the ground.
Yeah, I think he like thunders over next to her, and then squats down and is still towering over her, and he says, "Miss, is everything all right?"
And you can see her smiling, and yes. I'm so sorry. This is really embarrassing. But and then she immediately, once she's done wiping and she straightens up, her hands immediately go back down to her stomach to gently rest on her, again, slightly enlarged stomach. And she basically looks like a pregnant lady. But she has this she has a look in her eyes that you're not used to see in these days, because again, these are miserable times, and being pregnant, is wonderful as it might be, it also means that you have to find means to take care. There will be another mouth to feed. So normally people aren't as, and also in general, aren't as glowing and happy. Despite the puking thing, she still has this really can't think of a better word. Yeah, kind of glowy, dreamily touch about her. And so she says, I'm sorry, it's just, and she looks down at her stomach and sort of lightly rubs and said, it's, you know, it's almost time. And, you know, it just comes with certain side effects, I guess. But thank you for checking on me. I really appreciate it.
If you're ill, we have a doctor.
Oh no, that's not necessary. It's I know what to do. I know what to do. And she actually, her look becomes a little bit off focus, as if she's looking past you and seeing, as if she's seeing something really, really nice. She sort of begins the whole, you know, waving from side to side again, smiling to herself and humming a little bit. And then she shakes her head and says, but thank you again. And she begins to walk away.
If I may, Miss,
Yes?
if it would reassure you, I have a friend here. Well, I guess everyone's a friend, more or less, who is one that could tell fortunes, and he would happily read the fortune of you and your child.
Oh, that is awfully kind of you, but I already know the future of my child, of what is growing inside me. I can tell you it's going to be wonderful, just wonderful. And again, she starts to walk off. And if you're calling out for her again, this time she will ignore you.
Strange people. And he kind of shrugs and walks back.
You know you can roll if you want to. But...
I know. But I'm not going to intimidate a little old pregnant lady.
You can keep an eye out for trouble.
That's true. You know what? I didn't really look at the... hold on, give me 1 second. Let me look at the basic rules. Yeah, you know what? I will do that. I will keep an eye for trouble. I always forget basic rules.
What does that look like?
Powered by the Apocalypse. Let me read it, Eric. I don't know yet. Let's see here. Roll Guile. I am okay with that. Yeah. Okay. Dope. So let me roll and see what this happens. What is it? 2d6 plus. What's my stats? 1.
To make a move, you need to do the thing. What does it look like when you're reading the situation?
So for
he's doing this.
Yeah, no. For Atlas, he kind of looks around and makes sure that like no one is looking at him, or like no one's around in this area. And when he's sure enough that no one is paying attention, or at least paying attention to his giant ass, he takes a few steps forward, and he kind of does, not quite with the hand out, but you see his brow furrow, and you kind of see his complexion and like body position change. Excuse me. It looks more of like an aggressor stance, and then his eyes begin to glow as he's looking out and trying to see what's beyond the normal visage of humanity.
All right, roll 2d6 and then add your guile.
8.
It's a mild success. So on a 7 to 9, you can ask one of these. One of the 4 questions that you have there.
Okay. What dark truth is hidden here?
As you watch the woman walk away, and she's still humming to herself, there's something growing in her, all right? But it's definitely not a baby. It's some kind of growth, infestation, whatever, that's that has already taken over a good part of her. You can also tell that she doesn't wish to actively harm anybody. Like, she really just is wandering off. But yeah, there's no baby in that valley.
I think with that, he would absolutely go to his friend the seer. He would go to Zoltar. Zoltar is the most knowledgeable person he knows when it comes to this weird shit, besides Evangeline, but she isn't always forthright with her information.
Awesome. How about we come back to that later? We're going to
Perfect.
cut to Evangeline first, and then I'm going to come sort of loop around back to you guys. So we see Atlas walking off to Zoltar's tent. And by the way, all of the performance tents come with a little side section, almost like a mini tent where you guys can get ready for the show or just have a bit of a breather in between, eat a snack and whatnot. So for now, we're cutting back to Evangeline's tent, and there's also a sign above the tent, and it says Evangeline, and it used to say sometime back in the day, the geek, but for decades now, it just says the living nightmare. And just like with the others, there's a banner with a painting of Evangeline, but there's also a sign that says that children under the age of 12 are prohibited from entering. Because Evangeline, you know that there have been quite a few unfortunate accidents in the past, and so at some point it wasn't very economical anymore for the carnival. Too many policemen sent along our way, and lawsuits with traumatized children and whatnot. And then underneath it says everybody enters. Basically, it's you enter at your own risk. And the barker or the announcer who's in front of the tent says, "All right, Evangeline, we'll see you now, but I already told you, be ready to see and experience your worst nightmare. Do not tell me later on that I did not warn you." And then he actually also hands out paper bags, because people frequently throw up during your show. And there's always a second guy stationed not really in your tent, I would say, because I was wondering, how can we make sure that the rest of the crew who is near doesn't get affected by your skills. And I would say that that Ulysses, the illusionist, they created some kind of charm. So even if they have to step in and drag somebody out when they fainted, they will not be affected by your skills. But then the flap of the tent opens and people come in. What do they see?
At first, what they see is a big, beautiful, sort of ornate-looking, deep red stage with bright, vivid colors of curtains, like, sashayed from the ceiling, from the center down along the sides. And there's, it's very Victorian looking, but it's bright. It's not scary. It's not, it's not what you'd expect after reading the 100 warning signs. But it's just a nice stage, and there's no one on it yet.
Okay.
And I think as people start to come in, they would hear something in the back, "Ladies and gentlemen," and when everyone turns, you would just see a child. And dressed in like a suit, as if he's speaking, but it's the sound of this sort of like a crypt keeper type voice coming from this boy. And she would appear on stage as if she's been walking, and she just walks out of a shadow on stage, and everyone turns around, and it's a woman who's about 6.5 feet tall. She has long, gangly fingers and limbs. She's wearing a corset over a long ruffled shirt with suit pants and a bow tie. And she's just standing there. Looks like her clothes are from a few decades ago, maybe a few centuries. Depends who's looking at her. So as she starts to open up her hands, and "Who will be first? Tell me what your fears are. what drives you here? You all expected some type of a show. People enjoy being scared, whether they admit it or not.
Oh yeah, I know exactly what that is. So the look or the reaction of your audience is exactly when I ask my class something, and everybody's like, "Don't look at me, don't look at me." But then eventually, there's a guy who just steps up and goes, "I was scared of nothing. You can't scare me, lady. I mean, you can try." And so he just, stands in front of you.
She snaps her fingers as a spike shoots through every single member in the audience from their chair. And the bodies fall limp forward. And the children, 14, 15, they'd be sitting at the edge of their seats. Maybe the younger kids who lean over the back of the seats. It just misses them as these children are screaming and crying in horror. And she says, we have a non-believer, folks. And she goes over and starts, "What do you think?" with the dead body's mouth, and just turns it to him and waits for him.
So just to make sure I understand that correctly, she has a dead body, or is she using some?
She's using one of the people that died in the front to turn their head all the way around at them.
Okay. So you definitely see sort of the blood draining from his face, but he's trying to keep his shit together, and he goes, that's a really nice trick, lady. There, those are your own people, aren't there? Come on, you can fool me that easily.
You have a girlfriend, do you not? Someone that you care about.
So.
All right, well, and she snaps her fingers, and everyone's just sitting there like they didn't see anything happen. They're just sitting there quietly waiting. And she walks back up and says, if you would, sweetheart. And she pulls the back of the curtain, and his significant other walks out.
And he goes, "Wait, Becky? How did you get here? I left you at home."
She looks to the young boy that was standing at the end in the back. "Come on up here."
Yeah.
He helps out sometimes with these. So we're going to play a game. If you would come up here and spin this wheel. And she snaps her fingers, and there's one of those obnoxiously lit circular wheels for him to spin. And it's a 50-50. One has a picture of a little short, small person, and the other one looks vaguely like the female restroom sign. You get to decide their fate.
Wait, so you want me? And he still looks at his girlfriend because he came here to have a good time on his own, get drunk, maybe get a little bit of side action after the official shows are over, and then he looks back at you. So you want me to spin the wheel or what?
Well, folks, we have a non-believer and someone who is quite indecisive. The rules of the game are simple. You spin the wheel, one of these two people dies.
Yeah, right. And he steps on the stage and sort of winks at it as his girlfriend, sort of in the I'm playing along, and then he spins the wheel, going all the way around, and then it stops at some point.
So it doesn't actually stop. It comes off of the track that it's on and crushes his girlfriend. It comes off the pedestal it's on and crushes his girlfriend.
Like Final Destinations shit?
It just crushes her, as you see, like a car, like Who Framed Roger Rabbit gets flattened, but it just goes through, cuts up her leg, and crushes half of her skull, and just immediately kills her.
Awesome.
And she goes, "Well, folks, this is going to be a messy cleanup."
And he screams, "No, Becky!" And he sort of falls to his knees next to her and sort of, what did you do? What are you people? And sort of he's completely losing his shit over this, and he grabs her and says, "Becky, Becky," and screams her name and "You murderer, what did you do? You're a fucking monster. I will kill you." And he actually gets up ready to choke you.
Yeah, when he looks back down at her the last time that he goes to look, There's nothing there. There's no wheel. There's nothing.
Okay,
It's just him and I. There's no child. It's just him and I standing on the stage.
Okay, he freezes as he's about to wrap his hands around your neck, and at this point, you will see, or maybe you already noticed, but he will become aware of the fact that he totally wet his pants, and his arms fall limply by his side, and he looks at the stage and sort of trying to register what happened, and he looks behind him, and everybody is, and the audience,
They don't see
the
anything.
audience, yeah, the audience didn't see anything, but some of them, like the kids, are just like, oh, awesome. And then some of the adults are a little bit like, oh my God, what did she do to him? Because he's a mess. He's visibly shaking, and he just looks at you and goes, you freak, and he spits you in the face, and then begins to walk off and to stomp out of the tent.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, not all customers are going to be happy ones, but as you see here, this is the real deal. Who else? Anybody else have something that they're scared of? Maybe
Yeah.
something they enjoy.
Yeah, there's
there a young
another.
Is there a young person? I know you said there's no kids, but is there like
There
if she
is,
walks to the
yeah,
audience-
there's a younger person who who's about to raise their hands, like youngish, like 17, 18. But there's a handsome young gentleman who places his hands on that boy's arm and sort of steps up and sort of looks you straight in the eye with a smile, or actually with a sly grin on his face. And he's got a square jaw and high cheekbones, and his eyes are really piercing blue. And just like pretty much all of the guys here, he wears pairs of slacks and the shirt that used to be white at some point, and suspenders, and also a bowler hat. You see like curls peeking out from underneath. But you also see tattoos rising up from the collar. And he grins at you and almost like challenging, and he says, "Try me, girl." And he comes up onto the stage.
All right. Anything that you love, anything that has value to you, or anything that just turns your stomach. We've got all types here.
I really have a thing for kittens. And, I once saw someone just turn the neck of my poor little kitty, and that, I think I'm still traumatized by that.
Well, that's some fucked up shit. We can accommodate that. And she just goes to wave to the rest of the audience. Audience, how would you like to see him kill his own kitten?
Yes! Well, at least some of them are like super into it. And then actually the guy who's really into it immediately gets shushed down by the woman next to him. He's like, what's wrong with you? But yeah, people are sort of yay and kind of hesitant. But in general, they're all for it.
She's going to simply turn, she'll say, and of course, so that we can all enjoy. And you see her tap him gently on the back of the head, and his body is completely paralyzed. And he's having a sort of out-of-body experience, as if like when you're having a nightmare and you're running from something and you can't catch it. She's pretty much playing on repeat him murdering his kitten for him and for everyone to watch, as he can't do anything to help.
Yeah.
Just see.
And he's totally living through that, and he enjoys every second of it. And you can hear his voice in the back of your head saying, "That's all you got, girl?" And actually at this point, you're like, something about this guy is familiar, and you're like searching for memories, and then you realize you've seen him before in the last town. Just sort of a fleeting face, but for some reason you remember he was there before, giving you that same amused grin. kind of challenging look. And sort of then after you hear this voice, he plays the part, but you know he's playing it. He's playing the freaked out person, sort of, you know, falling to his knee and going, "Oh God, no, please make it stop, make it stop." But you can tell that it's not really getting to him.
Knowing that, everything clears. He's not there anymore and the cat is gone. And she again taps him on the back of the head, and he's in his own mind drowning. And he can't see anything on the stage. And
Yeah,
he feels like he's drowning and he actually can't breathe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you see he's a little bit uncomfortable. It's not really pleasant. But you can for some reason completely enwrap him in it. Again, it's not comfortable for him, but he's leaning into it. Again, he's playing the part, playing the completely freaked out one, and then even before you cancel your illusion, he flees the stage and the tent, and he drops something on the stage as he does so, but he's just booking it.
She will pick it up and put it in her pocket as she walks over to the audience. Well, don't mind him. He had somewhere to be, clearly. And her stature grows as tall as the tent, and she looks as if she's a shadow with sharp teeth. And she just leans down into the audience. Well, our night is coming to an end, but I just wanted to give everyone just a parting gift. And as she opens her mouth, you just see bees. And they just chase people out of the tent.
Oh yes, and they are running. They're running really fast. They're clearing out the tent.
You're a horror Oprah. Great.
And since she's a geek, she's also biting the heads off of living creatures, because that's your first move. It's called Headless Beasts. But for you, it's probably a little nothing.
That was the first show. This is the last one.
Yeah. What is the second move that you picked?
Let me see.
So the first one is basically you're grossing people out and sort of getting information from them by just biting the head off a little chick or a bird or a bat or whatever.
I gotta find the moves real quick. Why don't I see moves? Okay, so Headless Beast, you said, is the first one?
Mm-hmm. And then you can pick one of the other two.
What is your choice?
Shameless. When you hide from your betters in plain sight, roll plus guile. On a hit, you remain unnoticed, quietly observing. Mm-hmm. And then ask the MC to one revealing question about the scene you observe.
All right.
Okay.
And so the shows for today are over. And by the way, if you look at what that gentleman dropped, it's a flower. And it mostly reminds you of a thistle. So it has some thorns, and but there's sort of a densely packed bushel of little tiny petals, and they're velvety black. And as you hold it in your hand, you hear that same voice whispering in your head. It's almost as if it's coming from that flower, and it says, "You're worth so much more than doing this." And then you feel as if something is fading from the flower, as if this message was stored in the flower, as a medium of transference, if you want to call it that. Well, and then the shows are over, and as you leave your tent, you will hear angry voices coming from Lorelai's tent. Lorelei, quickly cutting back to you. Those two drunk gentlemen from earlier, remember them?
Yeah,
They're back.
they've come back.
They're back.
Okay.
And they just waited for the crew member to leave, and then they snuck in basically through the side little back tent. And yeah, and you're still in your tank, and then they're coming up to you, looking at you, grinning, and saying, "Okay, Little Mermaid, come on, it's just the three of us. Little private show or something like that, hmm? You know, what's really going on with that tale of yours?" And Evangeline, you don't hear exactly what they say, but you can definitely hear fucking drunk guys at it again. But Lorelei, how do you react?
So she's still in her tank. The other two haven't found a way to get up the wall yet. She starts speaking to them like normal, but she's still in the water, so it's kind of weird that she's able to talk normally. You two aren't supposed to be in here. What are you doing?
Aw, I think you know why we're here, Lovey, don't you? Come on. And we're gonna pay you extra.
No, you shouldn't be in here.
And they just laugh at each other. Isn't she cute? She's playing the hard to get. And the one guy starts to reach into the tank, sort of trying to grab one of your arms.
I would back away. I would try to stay out of their reach as much as possible.
They start doing this game where they're on opposite sides of the tank trying to grab you, and they're getting more increasingly annoyed and upset with you just, you know, being so skittish and goddamn sensitive. And
yeah,
you know, you're the freak here. You know, we have the fucking right to do with you whatever we want. And Evangeline, as you come closer, you can actually make out the words, what they're saying.
I think as she's in the middle, trying to sort of just stay away from the edges, both of the boys have, the men standing there, have these large tentacles come out of the water and are forcibly shoved down their throat, to the point of almost being in their stomachs. And they can't move, they can't get, because the suctions have now expanded and they're suffocating from these two tentacles that have come out of the water. And she's gonna walk in, and she just has a cane, and she's just whistling.
And yeah, they're completely. And I assume that's an illusion, because as far as I know, you can't really make you can talk about tentacles with it always sounding dirty.
Yeah. No, yeah, this is just to her. They just look like they're like you know, drowning, but just standing there.
Kids these days, you can't shove a tentacle down someone's throat without someone thinking of an anime.
Right? And so they're rolling their eyes, sort of, and sort of trying to remove it from their throats.
She looks at her and, shall we let them go? Have they learned their lesson, do you think?
No, not yet. No, not yet.
We wait. And she sits down in one of the chairs, puts her feet up on the back of the one in front of her, and just twirls her cane in the aisle.
So while this is happening, if you'll allow me, I'm going to start humming to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this would still count in siren song. But I think instead of shriek until their ears bleed, I'm just humming something that sounds very disconcerting. And so it's just freaking them out even more.
So you're not trying to do harm, just to freak them out.
Yeah.
Just double check if there's what the other options were.
There was.
Oh no, it doesn't fit, but it's fine. Yeah, the other is just like mesmerize someone, and then slip under their skin. But it's perfectly fine. Yeah, they are. Yeah, lesson learned. They're ready. They're whimpering on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, she'll just kind of waves her hand, and they retract into the water. just kind of waving by as they go down under the water.
All right, and we're making a cut here, and going back to Atlas, just as he is entering Zoltar's. Well, let's say you went to Zoltar's tent, but he wasn't there anymore. So you went to the caravan that the two of you share.
Sure.
So yeah, Atlas is entering, and you're already.
Yeah, he kind of walks in, and you can like, I assume it's one of those like wagons, right? Like the caravan wagons, and you can see the whole thing like as soon as he steps in, and he like ducks down, and he's in that like Gandalf in the Hobbit hole kind of thing where he's hunched in the entire time, and he looks down to where Zoltar is, and he says, "I think we have a problem."
You come inside as you're saying that, excited to say it, and you look and you see that you spilled Zotar's tea all over him.
And every drink in the vicinity.
And I say, indeed.
I will make you a new one. I think we have something far more pressing.
I always have extra. Think about Zoltar. Zoltar always has extra tea, so he just grabbed another pot.
He just had a spare pot lying around.
Yeah.
It's
okay. That was my fine tea. What is it?
I met a woman tonight, and she is carrying what looks to be a child, but isn't.
Eyebrow raises again, quizzically, as we saw before. Go on.
Yeah, this isn't my strong suit, but I know this is kind of your thing. The child wasn't a child, it was some kind of evil growing inside of her like a cancer. And she's pretty excited about it. I figured that squeezing her to death was probably the wrong answer, so I figured you'd have a better one.
Zoltar, very quickly, or maybe all of you would remember that the drill is pretty much in every town to let Dolores know when you find something. But it would be understandable that Atlas is going to Zoltar just to get his input or intel.
Sure. So I guess I'm a little worried, Atlas. Why would you come to me and not Dolores?
Well, I'm not a big fan of hers. She
but
grates on me.
What do you want me to scold this woman? There's nothing I can. What am I to do?
I don't know. I deal with punching things and beating up terrible things. You deal with the rest.
Premonitions.
Yeah, no, I know. Maybe you could, I don't know how it works, feel something out. Is it actually bad? I don't know.
What were the words that she said?
Oh, she didn't say anything. I could see it.
No, Atlas. I need to know what are the words that she said as I get my tarot card out, or my tarot deck out.
She said, "Oh, I tried to get her to come to see you, and she said, no, I already know the fate of this child." And then she walked away and wouldn't respond when I called her anymore. And then I could see the creature or whatever festering inside of her.
Okay. So I imagine why this is happening, like on screen, right? As you're telling me this story, I have already taken the deck out and kind of started flipping the cards as I'm doing, hopefully, my cards move here, getting some insight, so I can hopefully ask some questions here. Does that sound like a roll? Right. So we have a quick flashback of this event, and then a cut to card flip over to this event, card flip over, my face going and kind of
Honestly, with what I know about your abilities, I would say you would have to be closer to her.
Okay. Sure.
Or something of her.
Okay. Sure. Cool. So then I grab the card and I get the Fool or something, and I'm like, this isn't okay. This won't work. We need to get more.
If it helps, She vomited a great deal outside my tent.
Do my powers require a vomit? Which is a question I never want to ask an MC ever again.
I'm so glad you did.
I mean, you can definitely check it out and see what happens.
Yep,
No, I'm
that's
good.
vomit.
Maybe it's evil vomit. I don't know.
No, I'm good. I'm
Okay.
gonna bypass the vomit here.
Sure,
and,
makes sense.
No, we're gonna put this up the chain.
All right.
All right. And then at that moment, all of you hear a bell ringing, and that means that dinner is served. It's late dinner. It's 9:30 ish. And as you making the way to the sort of tented area in the crew only region, you actually come by where the woman puked. And so maybe Atlas could be like, there, look it is, and then Zoltar might be like, yeah, awesome. But Atlas, you will see that instead of vomit, there is a patch. There's a patch of beautiful flowers, and it definitely sticks out because
not maggots.
The earth in general is parched everywhere.
Yeah, see? That's not normal.
No.
Do you go closer?
I mean, to be fair,
No,
it doesn't seem to be evil, but...
I'm getting Dolores.
All right, I'll keep following you. You do the talking. I don't like her.
Yeah. And to the ladies, I would say you see, as a guy just finish this up and move and walk towards the dinner tent. And I would say you're all gathering there and maybe exchanging, asking a little bit, how was your evening being? How did the shows go? And so Dolores stands up on a chair and goes like, so people, what do you have for me? Anything, it has to be here somewhere. And those of you, I would say Lorelei might be the only one who doesn't really pick up on that, simply because she's only been here for a couple of months. But the others, Dolores is always a little bit of an asshole, but there is a tone to her voice that tells you that she's really cranky. And in front of her on the table, there is a bowl of food. Well, there was a bowl of food because it looked like she just turned it over in disgust. And to the older members of the circus, that can only mean one thing: Dolores is getting a little bit hungry for something else. But for right now, she's just awaiting everybody's reports, and everybody's like, oh, I didn't see anything. And then you have the conjoined twins. What did I name them? Sam and oh boy, Sam and something else. Let's say Daniel. And the two conjoined at their hips. And as always, they look flamboyantly handsome. They perceive themselves to be artists, so they're always running around with a nice little scarf and sort of like a what's it called, a dressing gown and whatnot, an open shirt. And Sam goes, well, actually, it was quite normal for a while, but then, do you remember this? There was this really unsavory guy towards the entrance. And Daniela goes, oh, yes, now that you're mentioning it, he looked a little bit out of it. Like, we were putting on the show for everybody, and he wasn't even watching us, just staring into space. I mean, come on. He paid for this, so... Seriously. Just looking out into space as if he was having some little nice wet dream or what. I don't know. And Sam just shakes his head, completely agreeing with his brother. And then Dolores looks at you guys, sort of wanting to hear from you if anything unusual happened.
I think Atlas kind of nudges Zoltar.
I nudge you back. You're the one who saw it, not me.
Evangeline, while they're like nudging, just kind of looks over, and one of the gentlemen was. She kind of like gauges the room, getting off on watching himself kill kittens.
And
This is normal behavior for people I know, but not people.
And the conjoined twins in unison go, gross. And then across from you is Shupin. She's the human blockhead of the circus. So she hammers nails and everything else into places of her head that should technically kill her, but it doesn't. And she's a little person, but that has something to do with her inner monster. And she is like, she looks at you, she's like, what do you mean? She like he wasn't, what do you mean he got off on that? Like,
He enjoyed it more than any person should.
well, are you sure he was a person? I mean, you know what I mean. And people are chuckling about it.
He was not a person. I misspoke. You're all people to me. And then she just looks around and is like, he talked to himself, to me, in my head. Quite a rare talent.
Yeah, Dolores sort of narrows her eyes, and Ulysses, the illusionist, leans forward, and Ulysses is a fairly not as tall as you, Evangeline, but still fairly tall. She always wears a dark red frock and nice black pants, and she wears her black curls and kind of a frizzy afro, and she sort of leans over to you and looks at Dolores and looks at you and said, that doesn't sound right. That usually means that. And then Dolores finishes her sentence. Could have been there was someone who plays on the other team. Did he? What else did he do, Evangeline?
He faked outrage, faked being scared, ran out of the tent. Quite dramatic, if you ask me. But
and Ulysses continues. So he resisted you in some sort of way.
Yes.
And Dolores goes, yeah, definitely worth checking out. We have to. And for a moment, she loses focus, and then she goes, yes, you will have to look into this first thing tomorrow morning. What else?
Can I give her a nightmare of that person? Like a vision of that person?
Dolores wouldn't like that too much, but you can share that with Ulysses. Because she is someone, I would say, of all of your colleagues or family members in this caravan, in this carnival, she's the one who can definitely handle it the best, I would say.
Yeah, she'll look to her and just he looked a little bit like this, and then he just pops out behind her, like the guy's face leans behind her and then leans back.
Yeah, and Ulysses looks at him and is like, I haven't seen him, but I agree with Dolores. We should look into this tomorrow. And then Dolores, again becoming impatient, slapping on the table. Is like, what else? Anything else? We need a lead.
Fine. It was a lady. Listen, there was a lady who was pregnant with an evil demon baby.
There we go, people. This is what I'm asking for. Was that so hard?
And he nudges Zoltar again.
I nudge you back. Vomit.
Ugh. She puked up vomit, and then it became flowers.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You, and she points at Atlas and Zoltar. We're going to take a look at that.
Great.
Once we're done here.
All right.
And actually, the two of you, and she points at Evangeline and first at Evangeline, you can come too. And then she sort of looks at Lorelei and says, you need a little bit more practice in the field. Get your feet wet, pun intended. You will come also with us in a bit. And then something happened that all but Lorelei have seen before, namely that a shudder goes through Dolores's body, and she's sort of, it's almost as if she has a seizure of some kind, and for a moment, similar to what happened to this boy in Zoltar's tent, her human mask slips a little bit, and you see long, strainy grayish hair, and her skin becomes really wrinkly, and her hands are really sort of thin and knobbly, and yeah, for a moment she becomes her hag self, you know, a nice little old hag. And I would say Zoltar and Evangeline, you would know best that this means that Dolores is really in need of fresh meat, and you know what kind of meat she's into. But then she gets a grip of herself, and she demands from all of you to just follow along, and you're all gonna look at the puke. And you don't have to roll anything. She's just gonna. Although the ladies, you haven't seen the puke yet. The puke with the flowers. Well, actually, it's. I would say if you look at it, it doesn't really look like puke anymore, but it's slimy, moldy, kind of. But the flowers sprouting from it are really, really, really pretty. I would say, Lorelei, you spot something that looks like, it's almost more like a reed, some kind of grass that grows by the beach in the coastal areas. And Evangeline, you see something like a black dahlia, something that looks probably gross to others, but it really appeals it is really to your liking. And so she looks at it, and but yeah, does anybody want to do something with that?
So wait a minute, just for clarity, are we each seeing different flowers, or is it multiple different flowers growing out of it?
You don't know. You just see what you see.
Okay, that's what I was asking. Cool.
And so if Dolores takes a closer look, and you hear her mumbling, and she all, you know, sort of, she kind of snaps her finger and says, you know, take a real good look at it. And with that, she means that, you know, you're sort of using your monster side to, sort of similar to what Zoltar did earlier, keep an eye out for trouble, but you don't really have to roll it. But as you all take a really good look at it, you see that there's underground, there's this really fine net of roots, maybe really thin, but it spreads out sort of a little bit beyond sort of the radius of where the puke used to be. But then there's one string, and again, this is all underground, but you can see it because it's basically darkness, pure darkness, and this thread leads off. And Atlas, you would recognize that this is the path that the woman took, and you can follow it. You see that it leads off the carnival ground.
Is the string like gossamery, like spider webbing?
Think of a fungi and the mycelial net that fungi have.
Yeah.
Just with fewer branches, I would say.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, just sort of a better picture. Thanks.
Yeah.
That's terrifying. No big deal.
And and so she looks at all of you and say, well, I guess it's clear now what you got to do tomorrow. Gonna go downtown. And all of you know that this is, normally she wouldn't ask you to do that. Normally as a performer, or at least if you look abnormal to the outside world, you're not easily allowed to go downtown, because people are supposed to pay to see you and your act. But you can tell that she's getting a little bit desperate, and she doesn't even await your response. She's just saying, okay, you're going downtown tomorrow, and take care of that for me, okay? And then you report back, and then she shudders again and then waddles off. And you have a moment among yourself.
I should have just squeezed her when I had the chance.
No, don't say that. Who knows what branch's path or what fate's paths branch from this one?
Would it
How's
make
everyone
you
else's day?
No one answers his question.
Lorelei fidgets nervously, but doesn't speak.
Oh, by the way, Lorelei, tell us, how do you navigate on ground out of your tank?
I'm in a wheelchair. When I'm out of the tank, I have a wheelchair that I use.
And how do you get by, because the ground is not always very even?
I mean, I do the best I can. Most of the well-traveled areas, like between the tents and stuff like that, are easy enough to get around on. But farther than that, it's kind of tough goings.
Well, I think
Occasionally
you said
somebody will like assist, but
I think
but for the
you
most
said
part, she
Atlas is going to help you out, unless he's punishing you, or maybe you changed your mind.
Yeah, I don't know about that anymore. I mean, I think at this point it's just kind of like whoever's around. If they offer to help, then awesome. But typically she tries to stay where she knows she's able to get around on her own.
Since we hit that point, tell the audience, what did Atlas do to you, and how do you feel about him since then?
Oh, it was some kind of argument, I think.
Oh, and Atlas, you can chime in. What happened?
You were being a shit.
I think maybe I asked him to help me get somewhere, and he didn't. And so I tried to maybe chastise him for it, which is kind of out of character for Lorelei. She's very nervous and skittish and doesn't speak very well. And so when she kind of turned that side, he was having none of it, and so picked up my wheelchair with me in it and set me up on this big stack of crates, which I had like very little chance of getting down from by myself.
Yeah, and Dolores had someone else help you, and she definitely chastised and scolded Atlas for that, and that's probably why there's a little bit of tension going on between them at the moment. If there's anything right now you would like to discuss before you go off to bed or do whatever.
I think if I was able to catch up with Dolores before she returned to her tent, I would do that.
Yeah.
Whether that's like chase her down for a second with my wheelchair or not.
Yeah, you can just call. I would say she wouldn't necessarily. Oh, let's do it like this. You go to her tent, to her caravan, and you don't see her anymore, but in front of her, on the steps to her wagon, sits Moss, who is Dolores's right hand, like assistant for everything. They bring her food and run errands for her, and usually it's Moss who comes to you guys and be like, hey, Dolores wants to talk to you. And Moss is tall and outwardly appears to be completely human, kind of chin length red hair, always flipped to one side and usually hiding their face a little bit, and very soft spoken. And so you see Moss sitting on the stairs to Dolores's wagon.
Having only been here a couple of months, I don't think I would really know a lot about really anybody. But would there have been anything in the past that would have made me distrust Moss, or are they pretty well everyone?
I honestly think that Moss might be the only person in the carnival that everybody likes, or at the very least does not dislike.
Okay.
Because they are they stay out of any drama. Oh, well, actually, I guess they attracted some drama because one of the twins fell madly in love with them, and they really don't know what to do with that. But but otherwise, they're pretty easygoing, and that says a lot. Even though there are a fallen angel, but so far you've only heard rumors about it, and maybe you're not even believing that this could be true.
That's fair. So I would approach. rolling up there. I, uh, I didn't see anything, not like the others did, but and just kind of, I was attacked again.
And Moss looks at you and says, "Yeah, I think Ulysses saw some guys fleeing your tent. They look pretty shaken up. Did Evangeline help you again?"
She did. She helped me
Okay.
a lot.
I mean, I mean, you probably know what Dolores would say, and I would say you've already talked to Dolores, and she was just like, you know how to bite, girl, and if not, learn how to bite.
I think
And
at this point, if anything, it's just venting.
mhm,
But yeah, I've
yeah,
probably had that talk with Dolores already.
yeah, but Moss will readily listen to you, and they're definitely sympathetic. And he says, they say, if I can talk to her again and see if I can pull some strings, because well, normally there's somebody supposed to be in front of your tent. I guess those guys were just especially sneaky, but I see if I can do something about it.
Okay. Thank you. And then we'll turn and head back to where she's supposed to be.
Okay. Anybody else want to have a little scene before we cut back to the next morning?
What
Yeah.
was? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just wondering. I probably would have maybe brought up, or I would have probably checked up on asking about the changeling boy.
Oh yeah. See, thank you for bringing that up. I forget about that. So let's say, as you after you went to look at the puke and the flowers, um, Ulysses comes strolling over to you, and she says, "Zoltar, what's with this boy? He stopped by my tent. Charlie, he said his name was. Said he spoke to you, and that you sent him over. Seems to be really eager to start working for us or with us. What's your take on him? He seems
He
like,
has skills like us.
well, that is clear, but I just want to get a second opinion. He seemed honest and genuine, but like that he was really looking for a new place to stay and help us. But I wanted to check in with you to make sure that I didn't miss anything.
I take the moment to bring up the remark about his father, and I want to hone in on that. So, like I say, yes, there was one more peculiar thing. You mentioned his dad and his relationship with his father, but it wasn't. Well, it had another meaning to it.
Yeah, I can help you with that. I mean, did he show you his? Okay.
Why not? Yeah. At the very least, he would be a useful tool for an audience member. What's the term for a plant? Is it like another word for a plant, like an audience member who?
Frankly, I'm not familiar enough with Carney lingo to know that. So let's just go with plant.
Yeah.
And she nods and I said, I agree with that, but the way he was so weird about his dad is that he's right now living with a human family that isn't really his own family, and he didn't want to go into it, but it
Yes.
seemed to me that his current family wasn't exactly treating him right, especially his dad, but I didn't want to prod any further.
Right.
So I'm going to bring it up with Dolores tomorrow. Right now I have to see if I can find some baby animal to give her. She's been a real handful these days. And the two of you go way back. I would say Ulysses has been there at least for 30 years. So definitely not as long as you, not as long as Dolores, and not as long as Evangeline. But you know each other really well, and you know that it's usually she and Moss who tend to have to take care of Dolores's needs.
Yeah. And so here's my question, and maybe this is actually not a question you can answer, but something our group should answer. But the question is, based on everything that's going on right now today, and like all these things, is this pretty like status quo for the carnival, or is this like an exceptionally dark time or unusual? You know what I mean? Like, is encountering another kin or you know a flower vomiting child darkness thing, is this like, yeah, every day that's what we do, you know, or is this like really peculiar?
I mean, you run into weird shit in every town, and sometimes it repeats itself.
Yeah.
But this, I would say, this is a special case because, as I said at the beginning, normally when you roll into town,
Right.
somebody picks up on something really fast. But it's unusual in that it is not that obvious. And I mean, Dolores didn't say anything, but everybody else didn't seem like they had seen something like that in particular before.
Good. Okay. Cool. Because like,
I mean,
Mhm.
like other thing that maybe there was some kind of plague that some kind of demon spread or something like that, but not particular in this shape.
Okay. Right. Cool. So then
vomiting.
I can do the old police chief thing when I go like, not in my 61 years of being here have I seen something as weird as flower vomiting darkness. What is? I
All right.
feel like we stepped in it. Yeah.
Okay, then I would
What do I know?
say we
Just to see her.
end the scene here, and then we cut back to the next morning. And so during the day, what you guys usually do is, if there's a new trick that you want to practice, then that is what you're doing. But you also frequently, at least those again who are not outwardly different, are sent on little errands, or sometimes you might have to help out with something, repair work, if you know, although you do have a fairly large crew of Rouseys who take care of all sorts of things. But anyway, Dolores will make sure that you're all awake, maybe not bright and bushy tails, but overnight her mood has just gotten worse, and she wants you to go drive to town. Speaking of which, does anybody of you know who can drive a car? You can take one of the pickups.
Definitely not
I
me.
think we should let the mermaid drive.
Oh my god.
Evangeline probably knows how to drive. She's probably been asked to go before, because even though she's one of the creepier looking, she's been around a while.
Yeah,
She
I
may-
feel like Atlas is too big to ride anywhere but the bed of the pickup truck.
Or
Yeah, you make a good point. Come again, sorry.
I'm just picturing a sunroof and he's half out of it. In the back.
That's a wonderful image. Atlas, I'll leave it up to you. You're either going to be on the loading area or what eventually interests suggest.
No, I think he like takes up the whole bed of the back of the truck, and he just sits there, but he's still cramped, so like he's still like knees to chest as he's in the back of this thing.
Okay.
Her, just fixing her rear view light. Well, this thing's fucking useless. And just points it all the way up.
So you're making your way downtown, and viewing the downtown area is not far away. You can actually
I'm sorry. The song.
Yeah.
Making my way downtown.
This is the
Sorry.
second time today.
No, I
I've heard
have
song.
that in my head.
It's the second
That's-
time today.
I'm sorry.
Okay, you're going into town, and the town is
This
not
is-
far away. You can actually see it in the distance from the carnival grounds. You see some of it's mainly farm buildings, but the downtown area consists of just a handful of brick buildings. And I would say a few of the Rouseys have already been there, and they told you what you can find there. So there's a church you see, and with a slightly slanted tower, and they told you that there's apparently a market square right in front of that, and it's a Saturday, so there might be something going on. And then they said that they stopped by at a diner which has passable coffee and cake. And there's also schoolhouse, but it's Saturday, so there probably won't be anything going on. And so you have just made your way out of the camp. How was I say campgrounds? Carnival grounds. Say you still see it in the rearview mirror. Well, you would see it if it weren't for Atlas. And just off the road, and eventually, I don't know, maybe you're not seeing it right away, but everybody else who's looking around, just off the ground, sort of between the dusty road and what used to be a lush field, you see a heap. I would say, let's say, at first look, it looks like a heap of earth, like an uneven heap of earth, and there's definitely sprouting something on it as you drive past.
What, a heap of what? Earth?
It looks like earth, and
Like
all
a hill?
of you.
Sketchiness.
I mean,
Like
it's sorry. It,
A
it's
heap
it's
of
a
earth is a hill.
You ever seen?
is this?
No, I mean, it's
Tremors.
like heap.
Yeah, like
it's
a termite
just
mound?
no. I would say it's uneven, and at the highest points, it's maybe a foot high, and so it's sort of sloping off, and it's
Yeah, like a pile
about-
of shit, like a trash pile or like a pile
exactly
of like
a
refuse.
5 feet long ish. But all of you will see, even if you're just passing, something sprout on it.
I think she's gonna slow down a little just to look at it.
This
Like-
place is called, what is it, like Ephrafa?
What?
No? Okay.
What? The place is called Hewing. It's I don't know. If that means. So
Did-
what are you?
Do we
you
see
stop?
it actively sprout? Like it sprouts as we drive by?
No.
Oh, just a thing is sprouted there?
Yeah. So do you stop? You want to look at it?
I think she's gonna slow down and kind of look at it and be like, guys.
And so from where you are, everybody's you know if you're pointing in the direction, looking at it. But from where you are, you know since you were driving and then your reaction time sort of counted into that, you're I don't know 5-6 meters away, and so again from where you are right now, you can just see it's an uneven shaped heap of earth, probably with something sprouting on it.
Someone want to spy it?
Yeah, I'll take a look. So what is this? This would be keep an eye out for trouble?
Yep.
All right, cool. Yeah, so I guess he's the only one outside of the vehicle, right? Everyone's just kind of crammed in the front seat, so he kind of leans over to the left side, I imagine, in the whole vehicle, like bends to the side as he leans over the rail of the bed of the truck, and he's going to take a look. Doop. 10.
Yeah. So technically, you can ask two.
2 questions. I'm gonna do the what dark truth is hidden here, and what tragedy is about to happen.
Well, don't ask the second question yet. Get your first one.
Fine, Eric. God.
Rookie mistake, Genie. That's like asking Genie for multiple wishes. Hold on, let the first one. The first one
Easy,
go through.
boys, easy. He can make up his mind.
Sorry that
I'm
you're
not
the
that
king of
strict
Powered by
about
the
it.
Apocalypse, Eric. God, I wish I was as cool as you.
So to answer your first question, you get the same feeling from this as you did last night when you looked at the woman, and in fact, as you look at it, this kind of looks like a human shape, but as if it has melted a little bit. But now that you're sort of looking closely at it, there's a bit of piece of cloth or fabric peeking out, and you recognize a pattern. This is the pattern of the woman's dress, the pregnant lady's dress. But she's it seems to be a human body. You see sort of the remnants of some fingers sticking out, but otherwise she's covered in goopy, moldy something. And just like last night, you have this feeling that this is the outgrowth of something evil, and you also know that you are closer to the root of it than you were last night. And just like when you guys inspected the puke and the flowers last night, you see this string root of glowing glowy-ish darkness in underground, sort of nobody else would be able to see it, but leading straight to the town. And then, so what about the second question? You stick with your choice?
Yeah, so I think he like is leaning over the thing, and the whole vehicle kind of tilts, and everyone kind of does that like slide down thing, and then he dismounts the vehicle, and it kind of shifts back as he walks over, and he's like basically looking at the trail and seeing like kind of where it goes, and then yeah, what tragedy is about to happen. He's basically looking down the path, assuming that whatever happened here already happened and has left.
Mm-hmm.
So he wants to know what's the next goal of this thing.
If anybody is still looking at this sprouting little flower beet, you will see that, so it had different kind of flowers, but all of you would see it almost like a closed poppy kind of flower, dark green, also, well, no, for the most part pretty. But as Atlas is looking down the road, these pods begin to move and pulse. And as you sort of reach out, use your darkness to find out what tragedy is about to happen, you get the feeling that this, whatever it is going to infect you any moment, and that the pods are opening and there's some kind of visible spore coming out from it, and it's building like a little cloud pretty quickly of sort of sickly greenish yellowy spores, and it starts to stink really bad, like worst putrefaction you can imagine.
Yeah, I think he walks back to the vehicle, and like leans down into the driver's side. Just says, "I think the woman's dead. I think whatever hatched. Also, I think the flowers are poison."
Evangeline, you sit on the driver's seat. You will now see, if you look to your left, there's this greenish sickly cloud of spores raising, and it grows and it grows, and the plume gets bigger and bigger, and it reaches the car. And then you actually see the first tiny, almost glowy spores going through the grill of your car, and it enters the car. Just 2 or 3 of them right now.
Yeah, that sounds real bad. I'm gonna say step on it.
You're sitting in the car, and this is flowing in the air.
I know. I wanted like
floating.
like with absolute futility, try to outrun it, right?
I think
I know it's not gonna work,
right?
but like I don't. I feel powerless, right? So like that's the only thing I can like.
You're in the car, guys. You're in the car. The guard.
And Evangeline's driving.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
If you guys yell at her to leave, she's just fascinated right now watching it. So if you yell at her to leave, she'll leave.
I think
okay,
so.
Evangeline, you sniff a couple of these spores since you're so fascinated. And just for a brief moment, you have this rush, almost like endorphins, and for a moment, and you're actually not used to feeling good, but you're just in that split moment, you're getting, perhaps for the first time in ever, an inkling of what it might mean to feel really good, and then it fades.
As soon as it fades away, I think she's like, didn't like that.
And there are more and more. You drive off?
Yeah, she's gonna drive off.
Okay. So
everyone's in the car. You got back, right?
I mean, technically, Atlas was standing outside the car, leaning in the window, but I'm sure if you like made a motion to like step on it, he would just hop in the back.
She doesn't. You probably just get dragged for a second until she stops the car and is like, "Come on, come on."
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it'd be more like as he holds the car and then realizes he gets in.
Yeah. Okay. And so as you drive off in the, again, if you could see back through the rearview mirror, well, maybe there's not the side rear. No, wait, which one would be blocked by Atlas? Let's say somehow you can watch back or look back, and you see that this plume of spores keeps rising, but at some point it seems to be to stop growing and then dissipate. And so you drive on, and just 10 minutes later or so, you make it to the downtown area of Ewing. And the first thing you see is a general store attached to it. Right there is also a post office. You see the diner that the Rouseys told you about. Further down the main street, you see the church, and you think you can make out just a few lonely market stands. You also see a barber shop, which, however, is boarded up because I guess in these days people don't really have money for luxuries like having your beard or your hair trimmed. And I would say, Atlas, you don't have to roll for that, but you can see that the string that you saw earlier, this route, it leads into the town and further down the main road. But then I would say, sort of, you kind of lose its trail. And there's several. It's a Saturday morning, so there's a decent amount of people on the streets, and they're definitely looking at you, Atlas. Okay, and some of the people might recognize you, sort of saying, "Hey, isn't that Ampos?" And some of you will give you definitely nasty looks, as they realize, because as fascinated as they were with all of you last night, here's the freaks, and it's, if you want to make yourself feel a little bit better, what better way than to put someone down, especially if they're, abomination of nature. So, what do you want to do?
Atlas kind of leads her on the side of the vehicle and says into the vehicle, whatever hatched went that way, and points down like the main road. And then he kind of like leans back and looks at all the people looking around, and he says, "Yeah, no, who would have thought? Freaks also need food occasionally. It's the weirdest thing. We can also use tools. It's pretty great."
And they just look at you. They're okay.
I think Evangeline's getting the wheelchair out of the car and just propping it open, and grabs a blanket and throws it over to her. And you really should cover while we're in public.
Oh, I mean, I'm rocking legs right now.
I thought you still had it. Okay, I thought that's why you had a wheelchair.
No, like
Me
to
too.
go out in public, like I rock legs, but I literally can't use them. It is just like it's an illusion, basically.
Okay, so I thought, I was
Actually,
like, maybe cover your fish leg.
Well, I'll give you this. They're probably like super scaly and weird colors.
Yeah, she's gonna give you the blanket.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair.
And they move as one. Like,
Actually,
just, like,
thank you for bringing that up, because that was something I had in mind, but I forgot about that. That you would be asked to sort of cover up a little bit.
Yeah, I think Evangeline would know that people, like, especially since she tries to like look out for her because she's new. I think she would definitely be like, yeah, cover up.
You got your wheelchair, you got your blanket. Okay, good.
You got your snacks.
Plus, I mean, it was in the 30s. That was the thing to do anyway. Cover with a blanket, because no one wants to see your deformities, even if they're normal.
Yeah. That's
no one
fair.
wants to know that you're handicapped because you were a freak in the 30s.
Yeah.
So as you're getting out the wheelchair, and I guess the others are looking around, the door of the diner opens, and it's forcefully pushed open, and a man stumbles out, and
That
he doesn't-
diner ring, you know what I mean? Like the ring, like.
yes.
Sorry. Yeah.
And it's called, what did I call it? Anna's Diner. And he doesn't get very far before he, in a now sort of familiar way, at least to Atlas, throws up on the sidewalk and walks off then.
Well, you don't have to be a seer to know what that means. I'd say cynically.
Yeah. Pretty sure we have a lot more than one thing hatching or whatever. I can't squeeze the whole town.
Since the door of the diner opened, you also get a waft of really tantalizing. Well, depending on if you like coffee, but it smells of freshly brewed coffee and freshly baked goods, and stands kind of in contrast to the man puking and then just wandering off as if nothing happened.
Can I follow that guy?
Yeah,
Okay,
Just
I'm gonna
you?
follow him. Yeah, she just has her cane. She's just walking along the streets. Unless someone follows her.
no, you're free to do that. So you follow the guy. Let's say he's just following the main road and then turns left before sort of 1 block away from the church. I'm coming back to you in a second. What are the others doing? So Evangeline is just, I don't know if you even say anything to the account of taking care of that, but probably not.
No.
Oh, what would Evangeline do?
She just, as soon as he starts throwing up, and you guys are talking about how there's probably more than one. As soon as it starts to walk away, she just casually walks off at the same pace as it.
Okay. What are the others doing? So you see just eventually following the guy who just puked.
I may not have even have seen her leave, because I have a thing for coffee and freshly baked goods. So I'm probably looking around trying to find the source of that.
Yeah, it's coming from the diner. When he opened the door, it's definitely coming from there. So
All American apple pie.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
yeah, you're free to go where you want. Continue your investigation. So you
Real
want to
quick.
grab a coffee? Yeah.
Can someone refresh me why we're in town? Are we getting supplies?
No, we're tracking down that fucking. We were following the trail of
Well,
the
we
woman,
did.
but she popped,
Right.
and whatever popped out of her went into town.
It
Right.
left the village and went there. So we're pretty much following this thing.
Yeah.
Which is what Evangeline's doing.
Okay.
To kill.
Just based on what the strong man said, because I haven't seen any of this. All
Yeah,
I
you're
saw was the
you're
pile.
investigating what's going on with puking, and then perhaps just see if you might run into this strange gentleman who came to Evangeline's tent. Maybe you run into him again. But
Yeah.
those are your two main objectives.
Dolores thinks this is darkness,
Okay.
and we're here to fight it. Right?
Sure.
That's the basics.
So, Lorelei, coffee?
Unless anybody tries to stop me, I'm starting to wheel myself in that direction.
Nope.
So yeah, I was just like, oh, that smells so good. Maybe that'll help me wake up.
And as you get closer to the door, there's actually a lady who opens the door for you, so you can roll inside. And it smells really damn good inside.
I just have a question. Do we have money?
Yeah.
Okay.
So most of what the carnival makes goes into maintaining the carnival, but all of you get like pocket money, and then whatever side hustle each of you might have.
Word.
Because you definitely know that the twins invite, for example, audience members into their
Oh.
private tent afterwards to just have some fun and make some extra cash. But yeah,
Side
you would definitely have the coin to indulge a little.
Okay, cool. Then I will absolutely do so.
Yeah, and there's a waitress coming up to you, and she's even sort of helping accommodate you, removing a chair from one of the tables so you can roll over there, and then she brings you coffee, and she's like, "Here you go, dear."
Thank you.
And it's not, yeah, it's decently crowded in there. I would say about 10 other people, and it's some families and just friends chatting, and then there's this guy in a booth towards the end who just seems to have fallen asleep.
Hmm,
Just sort of slumped over.
Sure. Okay, cool. Yeah. So if she's brought me like a menu and stuff like that, then I'll take a peek over that for a minute.
It's your usual fare. It's a very limited menu because these people barely have enough to eat for themselves.
Sure.
So it's your usual diner fare. You have bacon and eggs and like French, what's it called? French toast and and stuff like that.
So I smelled coffee and something else. Was it something specific or was it
Baked, just baked goods. They definitely there's a little showcase with pies that they set out right first thing in the morning.
Ooh, that sounds awesome. So I'll get a coffee and maybe one of the smaller pies.
Yeah, totally, totally. And it is delicious. It tastes really good. It tastes really good. And then yeah, you're having a good time.
If she'll give me a to-go cup, I'll maybe have like half my pie and then leave with the other half and my little coffee. And
Yeah,
then try
no
to find
problem. Yeah,
everybody else.
she gets you a second cup, and she hands it over to you and turns around, and then somebody starts to scream in the diner.
In the diner.
In the
Oh.
diner, there's this woman who screams hysterically and points at the gentleman who you thought was sleeping, just sitting there in the booth sleeping,
Uh-huh.
and he seems to melt, for a lack of better words, and there is this really thickly grayish mass coming, spilling from his mouth, basically all the orifices.
Oh.
And you see a hint, just very slightly, of the same spores that you saw earlier, and people start to freak and run out of the diner.
As well they should. That doesn't look very good.
Very quickly, Atlas and Zoltar, you're outside. Do you do anything as people come running out of the diner, kind of freaked out?
I'm keeping an eye on Evangeline.
Oh, okay. Okay, then I'm going to cut back to you two in a second, Atlas.
I think there would have been a conversation as like Lorelai went in between Zoltar and Atlas. It was like, all right, well, she's going that way. The kid's getting coffee. I'm gonna go follow this trail. You wanna babysit one of them or something?
So you're saying that to Zoltar?
Yeah, before he leaves to go follow Evangeline.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Yep.
All right, that works. Completely bereft of sarcasm, and he starts trundling down the street in the direction of the line he saw. Bless you.
Okay, so Atlas is walking down the main street. Let's cut back to Evangeline and then somewhere Zoltar trailing behind her. So you follow this guy, and he just walks along the street, and at some point he stops and he sits down just in the middle of the sidewalk. And so he kind of he turns around sort of halfway, see him in profile, and he looks really happy and content, like whatever, like if he smoked something, it must have been good. He's smiling to himself, and you also notice he's wearing a shirt, but you also notice that his stomach is really bloated. And he's just sitting there, just staring into the air, smiling to himself, lost in some kind of
Euphoric haze. Sure.
I think Evangeline just stops like 5 feet from him, maybe 10 feet from him, and is just sort of, her head's sort of cocked, and she's leaning on the cane that she has, Is he on drugs? Is he?
No, stay away from him.
Huh? Oh. What's he doing? The other gentleman said he saw some pregnant lady throw up. That guy throw up.
Yeah, that is what you're seeing. Stay away from him. I say very curtly, not courtly.
And
Adjourned.
the two of you have known each other for many years. So eventually you know how to, to read him or how to take Zoltar's comments and just mannerisms and whatnot.
Yeah.
I think she listens. She nods. She's like, yes.
This is the darkness's. Yeah, I say like this is the darkness's work. Be careful.
And at that, the man turns his face towards you and looks up at you, just very blissfully saying, "Isn't it beautiful? Just like it used to be. I never thought we would see this again, all the green and the plants." And then he's just at a loss for words. And then for a brief moment, you think that his really bloated belly is kind of quivering or moving a little. And then let's quickly cut back to Atlas. So Atlas, you're trotting down Main Street and people are left and right are giving you surprised / freaked out looks. But you're just making your way down and sort of you almost lose the trail, but you end up on the marketplace. And there are a few stands. Like it's a very tiny market again. People don't really have a lot that they can sell. And yeah, you look around and you see this one woman who's sitting on a chair, similar to what Lorelei just saw, seemingly sleeping, and underneath her chair is sort of a similar familiar little heap of whatever with little flowers sprouting from it. And you definitely have the feeling that you're even closer to the root of all of this than you were before. And so it's basically marketplace. All of the other buildings are now behind you, the main buildings, and the only thing past the marketplace would be the church, and then probably a cemetery on the other side.
And he sees like this line sort of stops here.
Yeah, it loses it becomes tricky to follow it because it spreads out and then it kind of vanishes it. But it might be just that you would just have to focus on it again, or but you definitely have an inkling that you're very close now.
Yeah, I think he so Atlas isn't a fan of, like, he has a soft spot for humanity, but he's not a fan of people, especially all of them. So he kind of walks over to this lady sitting on the bench with this like heap beneath the bench, and he kind of just grabs the bench in the middle and just lifts it up to look underneath it while she's on it. And I'm gonna do that whole keep an eye out for trouble situation again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he's gonna lift this thing up and take a look underneath the bench just to get a better look at this small mound. Ka-chow. Oh, that's bad.
Wonderful. So as you're lifting the bench with the lady.
Yeah.
And you're looking, and as you look down, you feel something take a grab of the back of your head.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of as you look down, the lady on the bench has come alive, but in a not so nice way, sort of similar to what happens with the gentleman in the cafe. There's this grayish, moldy, really bad smelling mass coming from all of her orifices, and it's actually started to also split her skin, and it comes out of her skin. But for some reason, somehow it holds everything still together. It just makes her limb really long, and her head, it's almost like it begins to sprout a little bit. Her neck gets long, and the skin also breaks apart. And there, funny enough, there's very little blood. It mainly what comes out is this growing mass, and her facial features have become really sort of hard to make out, as if, because her face has swollen, as if this mass that's underneath is trying to escape. And she is going for you. She is lashing out with violence. I get to make my first roll.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. How does it work again? 2d6. No.
Oh.
Why does she not succeed, Atlas? Tell me. So she is, the fingers are also elongated because they have split in the middle. The bones have split apart, but in between, everything is sort of held together with these lines and with this slimy, moldy mass. And she was going to just strike you with kind of almost talon-like hands across the face.
Yeah, so as soon as like he's holding the thing up and she like yanks his head back, he can kind of see her, and he reacts as quickly as he can, and that's kind of what throws her off, is like the fact that could hold her out at arm's length and she wouldn't be able to reach him. But I'm going to return the favor and lash out with unsettling violence.
Yeah, do that.
Let's see here. Jiminy Cricket. Wow. That was
so what
bad.
happens is her body no longer follows the physical rules of what a human body is able to do, and she sort of leans back, half slides off the bench, and you hear a wet squelching sound as her body mass falls to the ground, but then she reassembles herself right away. But she stands still. She's not doing anything. She's just sort of looking at her. Although, honestly, you can barely see her eyes anymore because it's... Yeah, there's a... Sorry, I was...
Yikes.
I don't roll? Well, I can roll if I want to, because I want to know if my PCs actually succeed or not. Let's just make it more interesting. We cut back to Lorelei. All right, that guy is still,
Yeah, this is gross.
flowing over.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to move around when everybody is scrambling around me. So I'm gonna like sit tight for a bit until everybody gets out. And then if he's like getting up and doing something shitty, I'm gonna get out of the cafe. But if he's not, I just want to like read the scene once everybody's out of the way and I have a minute to kind of stop and look around.
So for a moment, it gets super quiet inside the diner. Outside, you still hear people shouting like, "Oh my God, what is going on?" And people are really getting hysterical. But for a moment, it's just you and this guy, and then you hear like a wet ripping noise, and the skin breaks apart, and his body sort of almost like bubbles as this moldy growth starts to take over his body, and he just raises up his head, and you have like dead eyes just staring at you, but otherwise not moving, sort of slowly swaying from side to side.
I'm gonna slowly make my way for the door.
That is fair. And then I would say the last thing that all of you at these 3 different scenes see is that, so the guy in the diner, the stoned guy who sits in the street where Zoltar and Evangeline are, and then what used to be a woman on the marketplace. And you don't know that that they do this all at once, but suddenly they all move their head into one direction. Atlas, you would directly see that she is looking, actually her head turns more than 180 degrees to do that. She looks at the church, and the other guy, so he's one block over from the church, and the tower reaches above the other buildings, so you would get a general idea what he's looking at. And Lorelei, you would at least get that he's looking somewhere down into the area that's further down the the main street.
So he's not looking at me anymore.
No, he's not looking at you anymore.
Oh man, that's
And I just realized that he
interesting.
also would have to turn his head very far, and there's definitely some bone cracking as he does that. But
Oh,
he shows effort. He does it.
cool. Now that I think about it, I don't know how easy it's going to be for me to like get the door open. It might take some work.
I would say might have practiced that sort of rolling around, have the door open. It might be a little bit
Yeah.
awkward, but
Okay.
I would say you can. Yeah, you can get out. Maybe a little bumping against the frame.
Yeah.
And Zolta and Evangeline, what do you do? So the guy suddenly very
we should get in the car.
intently-
We should go get everybody. That's what I say to Evangeline. We should get out of here.
What if we just...
There's no hope for these people. We should leave.
Are you foreseeing that, or are you just being a coward?
I don't dignify for that answer as I get ready to go walk back to the car. Are you coming?
I would say, Zolta, as you get back to the main street, you see at least parts of Atlas, and in front of him that really, weird woman.
Mhm.
And then behind you, Lorelei is coming out of the diner. Lorelei, you can see Zoltar.
We should get out of here.
I found something too. And I'll like motion over my shoulder.
Yeah. It's too late. We need to get out of here. We can't fight this.
Evangeline, you hear someone chuckling. Hey girl, I knew we would meet again.
Is there a reason you're torturing these poor people? You have nothing better to do?
You call it torture, I call it fun. And if you're honest to yourself, isn't that what you're really good at as well? But where are my manners? And now all of you can hear this voice, and not so much in your head as in sort of out, just a normal voice. And Atlas, Atlas, it's actually coming right from behind you. Where are my manners? Seeing you've been able to track, follow the lead, put two and two together, or maybe not quite. And Atlas, as you turn around, you see a very good-looking gentleman, still with a bowler hat and curled hair coming from underneath the square jaw and high cheekbones and the sardonic grin and steel blue eyes looking at him, looking very content with himself. So, how are we going to solve this?
I think Evangeline pops up as she catches up to the group. Everyone, this is the person who is having me kill cats yesterday. I see you've been introduced.
My name, by the way, actually, just call me Jake for now. I think that fits. And Atlas, you might not have heard Evangeline because I think the other three are still a bit further back down the street.
But Atlas can still hear this guy's voice.
Oh yeah, he speaks normally. He only spoke the first couple of things in Evangeline's head and then addressed all of you. And strangely enough, even though the three, so Lorelei and Zoltar and Evangeline, are still 200 meters or so away from the marketplace, which is also the church place, you hear him quite well, even though he doesn't shout or anything.
Okay. And the creepy, like, gray skin lady is still standing right here?
Oh yeah, she's still swaying, doing the sway thing, and there's stinky, smelly stuff dropping from her body onto the ground, and he's doing not nice sounds like stuff like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
I'm gonna go ahead and use my donated crit, and I take the bench that I'm still holding, and I just smash her with the bench.
Hulk smash.
Yeah, I'm just gonna crush her with the bench. So that would be a lash out with violence.
Yeah, you do that.
So on a 10 plus, I would choose 1. I will mark darkness as the blood stains my hands.
Yeah, do that. And it's not really so much blood as it is this really this gross gray stuff that it makes quite a splash, and it's all over your clothes. And Jake kind of disapprovingly looks down at his really nice slag and sort of flicks a piece of that woman off himself. And he looks at you and says, that's not very nice, but why don't I make it more interesting? And then he mumbles something to himself and starts to paint something invisible into the air. And all of a sudden, for all of you, it's like it hits you. It's like there was something hiding what's really going on here from you the whole time, and all of a sudden these roots that you saw earlier, but mainly just single ones, now basically the ground underneath you is glowing. There's this whole like a mycelial network of roots, and that connects to almost everybody in this town. And then it connects back, it sort of merges into one big string and into the church, but actually not into the church itself, sort of off the side. And you see there's like a little shack there, or it could be the entrance to a storm cellar. And so he still looks very happy with himself. As that, so this is the situation here, my friends. Still want to do something about it?
I think Evangeline goes, oh no, it's dark and it's scary and it's a cellar. Not very good at reading people's fears, huh? And she just turns around to the rest of the group and is like, typical story, creepy guy, villain, fighting something over there. Am I missing something? I'm not even the seer here. And she looks over to Zoltar.
Are the three of you actually walking over? Because again, you're still quite a way away from where Atlas and this guy are standing.
I mean, am I close enough to keep an eye out for trouble? To see what, like, did I see him, Jake, do the sign thing?
Yeah. I would say all three of you
What do I know
saw
about
him.
that? I have esoteric lore. What would I know?
Actually, it reminds you a little bit of what Ulysses does sometimes, but you get the distinct feeling that he's using illusion magic of some sort. But for any more information, you would have to roll me something.
Hell yeah. Then I'm keeping an eye out for trouble.
Okay.
Actually, I'm just use my crit for two answers.
Do that.
What's my best way out of this mess is the first one.
Okay. Out of this would be basically what you suggested: get into the car and have everybody at the carnival pack up things and leave. But that would also mean that you give up the people in this town, and the other side will have, can make one more, how do you say that? Tick off one more victory.
What dark truth is hidden here is my second one.
If those single roots or strings have glown a little bit just here and there, somewhere underneath the church, something is glowing with dark energy. So the root of all of this is
The nexus
sitting
is under the church.
is sitting there, and basically something that sent out its roots throughout the city.
Right.
And actually, as you're, well, no, you won't hear it because you're still a bit far away. But Atlas, somewhere from within, not within the church, but within this shack or cell or whatever, you hear a low moan and a low rumble. And Jack just sort of folds his arms in front of his chest and looks at Atlas, and then sort of all the way at the other three of you says, so what's it gonna be? Are we gonna play here or what?
Just to
So
be
as soon as
clear,
Lorelai got out. Oh, I'm sorry. go
just to
ahead.
be clear, where is Jake?
Jake is just a few meters behind you. Or
Okay,
next
so
to
he's
you.
near me and farther away
Yes.
from them. Okay,
Yes, the other three are still a good way down the main street
Gotcha,
by the
okay.
car or near the car.
go ahead, Courtney.
So as soon as I got out of the diner there, I would have rolled over to Evangeline and Zulsar.
Mhm.
And am watching all of this kind of unfold from by them. Guys, this is weird. Should we go? Should we leave?
So just as a general reminder, mechanic-wise, the chances or the two options to solve this is either fight, destroy whatever is the root of this darkness or at the root, but then you basically lose because the town will be abandoned and whatever soul remains will go to the darkness or fall to the darkness, or try to negotiate with whatever is behind this.
If no one wants to try anything, I think Evangeline would. She's just the whole time kind of scoffing and like, this isn't scary, like, you know.
Yeah, and Jake just keeps. He often looks over to you, not just really amused, but there's in his look almost like awe, maybe. Yeah, something like awe when he looks at you.
Right. Am I in shouting distance to Atlas?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then I would probably call out because I know he's like staring down Jack right now. But I would say, Atlas, I have Atlas, there's something to break. It's beneath the church.
Alice is torn. He's not simple, but he's looking for champions and fights his way across the world. And this guy is bigger than most guys and stronger. So he's thinking about breaking this guy. And you can kind of, I mean, if you know him, so you can
I
kind of
see you
see
doing
him.
this.
Yeah, you
and
can
I say,
see him.
Atlas, no, you will fight them by saving everyone.
And the moan, Atlas, that you heard before becomes louder, and the door to what seemed to be like a tiny shack next to the church, it bursts open. Actually, it's pushed open by a first wave of this gooey, grayish, moldy mass, and then you hear like something, you go moan, and something waltzes itself up the stairs.
Great. Yeah, I think is there something that waltzes up? Is it like regular human sized?
I would say as it comes out the shadow, you can tell that it started as a human, but the growth has taken over, so it's really kind of misshaped. It's almost like more like a human blob than anything else. But I would say it's a bit bigger than human size.
Okay, but not as
Very
big as
right.
Atlas or as Jake.
No.
Okay, yeah, I think he
Well, maybe.
heeds. I think he heeds Zoltar's warning. and with like like a heave of a sigh, he like takes the bench that he's still holding, or the fragments of the bench, and just sort of throws it at Jake, and then turns and starts to barrel down towards the church.
So is that, are you actually trying to hurt him or just to?
No, I'm just, it's like a distraction.
Distract him.
Yeah, I'm just throwing
Gotcha.
this thing
Okay.
at him so that he's like, oh, and then I run off to the church.
Okay,
And if these things
Jack
are smaller,
just-
okay.
Okay, yeah, Jack reacts in time. He just ducks and sort of chuckles to himself, and then looks to his side where this thing is coming out of the cellar hole, and says, well, I know you're hungry, darling. Guess we should find something else for you to consume.
Yeah, I think Atlas runs towards the church, and he's just double fisting, smashing these things.
Things out of the church cellar is just this one unformy thing mass coming
Okay.
out.
Then yeah, he's gonna. I'm gonna roll some destruction on that thing. Where is it? I lost it. Lash out with unsettling violence. If I could roll better, that would be great. Eric, you have cursed me. I blame you. As the king of Powered by the Apocalypse, this is directly your fault.
Cool.
So yeah, I on a 7 to 9 of mild success, I choose 2. I'm going to attract unwanted attention, and I take it further than I intended. So like, people see me barreling towards the church, and then I basically smash into this thing and drive it back down to where I assume there's more than just this one thing.
Or that is what you're trying, because as you definitely do harm, but as you smash into it, your arm just enters into this mass and vanishes into it. And as soon as you touch it, you can feel a slight tingle, or even a burn. And when you pull back your arm, and this thing, I mean, it's definitely hurt. It took harm, but it doesn't stop sort of slowly moving its way out there. And now you get an idea that this is the only thing that is there. And also you're so you were attracting, now what was it,
Unwanted attention.
unwanted attention. Yeah, as soon as you heard that thing, so the majority of people on the street, as soon as all of that begins to go down, they run. I mean, some people were already running because they heard of what happened to the guy in the diner, but there were a good number of people who stayed and who were just standing in place. But as soon as you heard that thing, just like with the other people before, all of the heads shoot around and look straight at you and begin to slowly walk towards you. And you can, if anybody wants to check on the creature, you can do that as well, just to get an idea what it actually is. Jake is just having a good time, just watching you do whatever you do.
Yeah, I think between while Jake is talking and we're trying to figure out what he's saying and whatnot, like I'm also still trying to keep an eye on the thing that was in the diner. Has that come out yet?
Yeah. So soon after, or maybe not soon, he's not really moving that fast, but a moment after, you see Atlas pounding into the wobbly thing crawling out of the church's cellar. You hear the door opening and the thing walks out, but it ignores the three of you, and unless you do something about it, it will just start walking down the main street towards the church.
So to get a better understanding of what it is, what would I need to do?
You could basically keep out an eye for trouble, or we could just say I mean, that would work.
Okay.
Would you roll your guile?
Yeah, okay. I'll do that. I haven't rolled anything today, so.
You haven't
have
used
the bonus to guile.
You have, but you still have your crit, don't you?
Oh, I do. I don't want to use that yet.
Okay.
So.
Yay.
Ooh,
Yeah, that's a
that's a 9. So I can ask one of the questions. Oh. We've used what dark truth is hidden here kind of a lot.
not on the thing, but
Yeah. I think just like of the whole situation overall, I think I would ask what tragedy is about to happen here.
Okay, if Atlas continues to hurt that thing, the people that are already under control will begin to attack. In general, you now get an idea that, I mean, you already get an idea that a whole lot more people were infected than it originally seemed, and sooner or later, the spores will start to come out and whatnot. But you also get the sense that this Jake guy is definitely the one who's pulling the strings here. This thing that is now has completely, in its entirety, waltzed out of the cellar of the church. This thing is not harmless, but it's almost innocent. All you get from it is that it's hungry. That as long as it has something really nice to chew on, to consume it, you can make it happy, and you might even be able to negotiate with it, argue with it, kind of.
Oh, so with the creature itself, not with Jake.
Yeah, not with Jake, no.
Oh.
Like Jake, you get the idea that Jake is the one who's sort of orchestrating this, but this thing has a mind of its own as well.
Oh. Okay. Huh. That's interesting. That's not the way I imagined that going. Okay. Cool. It's so I'll point out maybe like how it's acting compared to like itself and maybe Jake. I don't think Jake is in full control of it.
By the way, Atlas, if you're not moving, that thing will start to latch onto you.
No, he trusts his friend and he's punching the shit out of this thing.
I think Evangeline, can she control their, like, what they see?
You mean the people?
Yeah, the mutated people that we're coming across as she's following Alice.
Do you have any of the roles that would fit into that? Or let's say, wait, what do you roll if you use yours? Is that guile? Because then I could just have you roll for.
That would probably be keep an eye out for trouble, right? Because she's like following Atlas.
So what are you trying to do?
She's trying to get these things to fight each other and kind of clear a path for Atlas. They'll think that it's us that they're fighting, and it's them.
Yeah, just trying to figure out what you could roll me, because there's no real move for that. I mean, you could try to deal with the blobby thing directly. Or you could just, what is guile?
I could use my crit if you want.
Yeah, and then roll me.
I mean, she's trying to make the things fight each other, right?
Yeah, I'm just trying to clear a path for him. So anything that's like
embrace the darkness would make sense for that.
Yeah.
True pain, true fear. Yeah. We can use that. Sort of that they recognize each other as an enemy. You can go with that. And you're using your crit, you said?
Yeah.
So yeah, then you choose 2 from the list. Or we can just improvise that and just tell me what what you're trying to make these creatures formerly human, maybe still human, see.
Yeah, I think that they're, instead of seeing us, maybe there's, it sees the blobby thing that's sitting next to this stage and goes to attack that instead, thinking it's us.
Okay.
Like making them fight each other.
Yeah. The creatures stop and they look really, really confused for a moment, and then they sort of look to the side. And they walk towards each other. And it doesn't go all the way you think. They don't start fighting each other, but you do notice that the grip that the growth has on these people, it starts to wane. And you can all tell that they're actually trying to regain control over their own actions and thoughts. They're sort of stumbling around aimlessly, and some actually do attack each other, but almost listlessly. But the thing is not happy about that. It sort of gives you here this low moan again. And Atlas, are you still beating it? Because then you would roll me again.
Yeah.
Alicia with violence.
Yep.
And at this point, because you haven't moved it, because it's this really unformy, slimy mass, it has started to engulf your legs. And whenever you punch it, and yes, it takes another hit. It does take harm, but it also evades, and it slowly begins to engulf you. And actually, that what was first just a bit of a tingle, now becomes a burn, and almost like an acid burn, as
Okay.
you feel this
So
blobby
would
mass
I have to
beginning
endure the darkness on this because I'm getting hit?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna endure the darkness, but I'm going to use unflinching. So instead of rolling breath, I'm gonna roll bones.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see here. 13.
Okay, so that
get
would
wrecked.
mean
On a 10 plus, so endure the darkness. When you endure the darkness in the face of danger, tell the MC what you want to do to withstand the roll. On a 10 plus, you also learn an unexpected truth about the situation. So yeah, as the creature begins to latch onto me, that similar kind of look he had in the Carnival happens, where his eyes glow, and that sort of extends. You see his hair kind of ruffles in a breeze that doesn't exist, and that glow kind of travels down his body and almost repels this whatever the hell it is. It's climbing up his legs, as the godhood of his demigodness sort of flows through him and repels this beast. And then I learn an unexpected truth about the situation.
I would say similar to what Lorelei felt earlier. You feel that this thing is sentient, but all that it wants is to be fed. So it doesn't particularly care about what it feeds on. It just, it for now it did the bidding of its master, because it was promised a really juicy treat. But yeah, it's not particularly interested in harming these specific people in this specific town. And yeah, you feel your skin burning as the moldy mass begins to eat away slowly your skin. It doesn't hurt as much, and you're not creeped out by it. The others, what are you doing as you see?
You're muted, Mike.
And actually, as the growth starts to creep up Atlas's legs, Jake, who up until then just stood there sort of amused, begins to turn around and just waves over his shoulder and said, I think my work is done here. And then he actually turns back one time and looks at you, Evangeline, and sort of says, we're gonna meet again, girl, and winks at you. And then
I like to use my crit and use Siren Song. And with that, I'm going to use Slip Under the Skin and try to take over this weird beastly thing that's trying to devour Atlas.
Okay. And so let me just go to that. It's basically, yeah, that is what the description is, right? Dictate an NPC's
Dictate an
physical
NPC's physical actions for a short
and you're
time.
using your crit. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So it stops. And what are you actually asking it or demanding it to do? Or
I
not
want to turn it on Jake.
And as soon as you think it's almost as if you get the feedback of that thing, sort of, well, Atlas is this dude is kind of tasty, but
No, Jake's far better.
You feel that it is drawn to the more developed darkness in Jake, and it begins to move down from Atlas's legs, but it's fairly slow. It does go after Jake, but again, Jake is not running, he's moving, but that thing is slow.
Yeah. Is there something else I might be able to add to it to kind of help it along? Is there something maybe I can do to
What are the other guys doing? So Lorelei successfully got that thing off of Atlas, and it's now sort of slowly moving, pulling itself along after Jake, who's slowly walking off and who might not have even noticed what's going on.
What would it take to get Jake to leave this town?
He is leaving town. He's walking away.
Like
but the
forever.
thing, you don't know that. But the thing is, it's following him.
Can I go? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, so then ostensibly the town is going to be okay if they're gone?
They left a lot of stuff behind. And I mean, at some point, Jake will definitely turn
Sure.
around. And Lorelei, you can feel that Jake is about to do something to use his powers to make the thing turn back on Atlas again.
So I have I spotted another move, but since I'm in the middle of Siren Song, can I use another at the same time?
Yeah, why not?
So real quick
Okay,
to answer Eric's question, Eric, I think Jake is like the puppet master, and he's leaving. He's not the problem this town's facing. He already caused the problem, and it's this growth. The growth is going to consume the entire town, whether Jake is here or not. So Jake's essentially dropped the bomb, and he's like, "Fuck it, I'm out."
He dropped the match and
Got it.
like, yeah.
Right. So the immediate problem is stopping the town from being consumed by itself. And Jake is going to be like, if this were a campaign, he's our big bad.
Yeah, and so Jake just turned around and saw the thing coming after him fairly slow and goes like, "No, you're not coming with me." And he is about to begin, just weaving some kind of counter spell.
So what I'd like to do is I'd like to embrace the darkness.
Okay.
And that's plus breath. We'll see how well this goes. So that's a 6.
That's a miss.
Yeah. Damn it.
So, and you have to mark darkness. What were you trying to
Yeah.
do? I mean, maybe you can get the others to help you with whatever you want to do.
So what I wanted to do was utilize the show someone true fear aspect of that, and force them to stop in place.
Force who?
So it would either be run from you or freeze in place, and so I
For-
wanted to
force
use
who?
freeze in place to Jake to make him stop. So he would just freeze.
Okay. I mean, you can just communicate with the others. Like if you have a plan, but you're not quite getting there.
Yeah. So maybe like like I'm focusing on keeping control of the goopy thing, and so I'm not quite getting to Jake, and so I'm just like, stop him, I can stop this.
As you see Lorelei doing that, what are the others doing?
Oh boy.
I'm not sure. It seems like, I mean, Atlas still has stuff on them
No, he doesn't. It withdrew.
entirely.
I'm all set.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Like I
you're-
took it off of him, and I'm sending it after Jake.
There's no like lasting things on you. Okay.
As far as you know. But again, you have an opening now to negotiate with the blob thing. It's hungry, and right now it still thinks that Jake is very juicy, but that is about to change again.
Well, I don't want to strike a deal with the blob thing. Someone else can.
I mean, my thought is if we strike a deal with the blob thing, like if we bring it back to the circus, can we feed it?
Doesn't seem like something you want to feed, does it?
Well, I mean, it sounds like the current options is punch it into submission and then everyone dies, or get it out of the town and constantly feed it, or fuck it and everyone dies.
Can I do something while we're...
Sure.
I'd like to embrace the darkness
Mm-hmm.
and try to control him again as he's walking away.
Okay.
So what? I just rolled 2d6.
Mm-hmm.
Plus breath if you have breath.
I don't remember. Hold on. I do. So plus whatever it is, plus 1.
Nice.
So 11.
So you can choose 2 of those things, and one of them is make them freeze in place.
Which is what I was trying to do, and I was trying to tell you guys to do that.
I'm going to show them true grief.
It says you take something valuable from them. It doesn't have to be physical.
I show him a vision of the world going back to how it was, and he has no power here.
Oh, you definitely hit him with that. So first of all, he freezes in place, and at first it's not, or let's say it's not complete. It's similar to what he did earlier, where he almost withstood fought against your mind powers, your nightmarish mind powers. But he can't move, but you see that he's putting an effort into it. And at this point, as he's sort of thrashing around, you might notice that his eyes that used to be intense steel blue, turn yellow. It's almost like an animal's eyes. And you see his grin become really wide, literally, and his teeth become that of a wolf or some other canine. And he's growling and thrashing, and as you send him this image of how the world used to be, and lush and green, well, not everywhere, but nice, and he almost screams out in disgust, because he can't wait for the apocalypse to come. And so blobby thingy is on its way. And
the second I get one more, right? Because it's 2.
right.
So the other thing I do is cause 2 harm.
Wait, actually, sorry. You already chose to, right? You have the freeze in place, and then
I didn't freeze in place. He said that.
Oh, okay. Well, then he's not threshing. Then he's still walking.
She's going to do harm to him. She's just showing him this vision. So he can't see where he's walking. He's just seeing this vision that she's showing him. As it starts to eat away at him, almost.
So that was a show someone true pain, right? Or was it true fear?
Yeah. True pain.
True pain. Yeah, let's say that also works. I'm going to bend a little bit because I'm well aware that we're over time. So whatever it is, maybe he didn't see it coming, but this time your powers work on him almost as well as on anybody else or almost anybody else, and he's visibly harmed, probably more more like traumatized than physically harmed, but he's struck with blindness, and you can hear him growling and sort of thrashing about. And let's say he just stumbles at some point, and the blobby mass just grabs a little bit of his foot, and he keeps on walking, but the thing is now latched onto him. And I would say after a few more minutes, it's you hear him begin to scream as the growth slowly rolls over him and completely covers him, and you hear muffled screams and almost like a howling, like a growl, and the thing completely covers him and envelops him. And then you hear, those who are a little bit closer hear some crunching noises. And I would say Lorelei and Atlas, since you sort of try to get into the head of this thing, you feel contentment. Or contentness. This thing just got something really, really nice. And Atlas, you notice when you look down on yourself, there were still some pieces of this mold on you, but it begins to fall off. But there's also one other thing that you may or may not have noticed. After Jake removed this illusion that he had set or put on the town, that the flowers that you used to see, those little patches with the flowers, when you now look at them, they're actually really ugly fungi kind of growth. So the flowers were also part of the illusion, and they begin to wither. But the thing is still there, so I want to go talk to it as much as you can.
Yeah, yeah. If I still have some kind of in with it, since it's eaten Jake, if I can still try to talk to it, I think I will. Before I give up complete control, I mean.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
So right now, I think right now it's in the state of mind that it just got something really nice to eat. And by the way, Jake is not yet completely gone. Every now and then you still see sort of a hand try to reach through the goop,
That's
but
so
then
gross.
it's being pulled back.
Yeah.
But right now it's almost like what could I compare it with? Just imagine you have a really big slug that all that it ever wants is to be fed, and it's really happy right now, and it will be very easy to make it do whatever you want.
Okay. I'm not sure I would really know the area well enough to like direct it somewhere. So maybe if it like went out into some like really obscure, not very heavily populated place and just started like nomming on animals and stuff, it probably wouldn't bother people for a while.
Yeah. What do the others suggest? So again, you see now the people who were transformed by this thing, they begin one by one fall to the ground, as this thing is no longer sees the need, at least not right now, to concentrate or focus on them. They're dead for sure. But there were other people who just looked, the ones that threw up. They seem to be like you see the one guy who sat on the street that Zoltar and Evangeline sort of approached. He's running off like he's scared, but he seems to have snapped out of it. And for the sake of time, I would say that in a situation like this, what you can always do is confer back with Dolores, have someone go back and then have her solve it, because I would say by now at this point you've kind of done the job. You've gotten this thing. You have this thing under control, at least for now.
Why would Dolores? How could Dolores solve it and we can't?
There's one thing I forgot, to be quite honest. I meant for Ulysses to pop up earlier, and she
Ulysses
is
or Dolores?
Ulysses.
Okay.
But Dolores is always someone. It's like, hey boss, we're at an impasse here, so what should we do?
Right.
But yeah, that was my narrative fault, because Ulysses is she is a forgotten god who is a god of the Orisha, the deity of doors and crossroads and paths, and she actually could probably deal with it by just opening a door and sending it back to where it came from, like hell or whatever. So there are ways to deal with that. So just for the sake of so just for the sake of not having your trying to figure out. I mean, although I think it would be a kind of cute scene if you put a leash around this thing and then just slowly walk back to the carnival and be like,
Oh my
Dolores, we
God.
got something for you.
Maybe Evangeline just like gives it a mission to go back.
Who gives? Sorry, I didn't.
Like Evangeline could be like make it think it wants to go back, so we don't have to like hurt it that way.
Yeah. If Ulysses sends it back, she wouldn't hurt it, because it would just be like, sending it back. You could definitely also do that. But either way, I would say you solved it and sort of saved the town. And for let's finish with one scene. Let's say it's the end of the third night, and even though the town was really spooked, Evangeline, actually let's say we used your powers, or use your powers to make, no wait, you can also only give bad dreams, right? I mean, you're a living nightmare. So I was just thinking, because
She is a nightmare, but she can just make people see whatever she wants.
Yeah. So maybe let's say with a little bit of help from your, and perhaps also Ulysses, you're able to draw in a decent amount of people who want to watch your acts on the third night. And then after everything is over, I'm just gonna let you close this off, all of you, the four of you are sitting together, and you see Dolores walking by, and she looks strangely happy. She's even whistling a little bit. Just to see her walking by, just nodding at you, kind of saying, good job.
Is it a good job? I don't feel like it's a good job. I feel like the town's ruined.
It was ruined when we got here.
Well, I would say it might have. Yeah, maybe you got back and you were what you just said. Well, I don't think we did a good job, but then you realize that it looked really bad right in the vicinity of the church, because that is from where it started to spread out, and it did affect a lot of people in that area. And then it spread a little bit further with people who walked, went to the carnival, but most of the town was still saved. I mean, I would give that as maybe a meek victory, but I would still give that, see that as a victory. But you're free to feel bad about that, Zoltar. And again, the four of you are sitting together, maybe having a beer. I don't know.
So we're back at the carnival, right?
Yeah, you're back at the carnival. You're reflecting on the day. How do you feel?
That was kind of a shit show.
Just another day at work.
I guess so.
Evangeline's laying on the couch with her eyes closed, with a huge smile on her face and her hands behind her head, just kind of laying on her hands and thinking about the guy dying horribly She's like,
Enjoying that.
all in a day's work.
Evangeline, later as you get back to your wagon, you will find another of those flowers looking just like the one that Jake gave you. But as you check wherever you left the first flower, that is also still there. But sometime later, whenever you get back or ready to retire for tonight, you will find a second of those flowers. Cutting back, you're still all sitting there together. But you're happy for now. Right now, you're feeling very good about yourself.
I don't think I would have stuck around very long. Lorelai doesn't really drink or anything like that, so like after supper, she, after a few minutes, would have excused herself and headed back to her tank, headed back to her tent.
Yeah, there was something we didn't really discuss last week, and I mean we said that she can't really stay away from the water too long.
She just gets super cranky.
So would you
So-
say that she sleeps in the tank? And they could
Maybe-
definitely roll it somewhere, where out of the tent, somewhere where it's a little bit more guarded. And
I mean, she would typically have it somewhere where it was enclosed. So whether that's keeping it in the tent or putting it in another tent closer to where she sleeps, I wouldn't say that she sleeps in it. She's done it before, but it's not a regular thing. She does try to be at least semi-normal and sleep with everybody else, where everybody else does. But at least enjoys taking a good amount of time, like not in a show and just being in the water.
all right.
And so like she'll excuse herself and roll herself back to her tent where that's being kept.
Lorelai, one afterthought for you, and you didn't notice it during the show because of everything that happened during the day, but as you about to go to sleep, you realize that you saw the parents, the same parents with the little girl that you saw the other night, but the girl wasn't with them. And that's just something that you realize right before you go to sleep.
Oh,
Zoltar,
I
how
think
do
that
you
might actually like keep her up for a little bit.
Okay, that's fair.
Because she's thinking about it, and so she's just kind of like, absently swimming around, but considering that she, it's just kind of a random thought that occurs to her. I remember seeing those people, and the little girl wasn't with them.
Yeah. Yeah, we will finish off in just a second. Just the gentleman, any afterthought? Zolda, you will definitely see the same night, Charlie, the young guy you spoke to, sort of being instructed by some of the Rousties to just help with some of the construction work, and he will look at you and sort of wave. And
Oh, awesome. Cool. I'm gonna bring can I have a moment with Charlie?
yeah, sure.
Cool. Yeah. I'm glad Charlie's here, and I wanted to apologize to him.
Are you saying that to him?
Yeah, no, like I want, that's what I
Okay.
want to do my scene. All right. So like I go up to him and I say, Charlie, I wanted to say I'm sorry about what I said earlier, and
He gives you this sheepish smile again, being embarrassed. Say, you don't have nothing to apologize about, mister. Yeah, and he just looks at you from under his cap.
Yeah.
But why?
Listen,
I mean, why would you apologize?
because I saw that you would be a good fit here, and rather than lead the case, I kind of passed you off. I passed the buck, so to speak. And I want you to know that if there's anything you need, I want to make that up to you. If there's anything you need, let me know. I want to make sure you feel welcome in this place, because you are welcome here, Charlie.
And as you say these last thing, you actually see him tear up a little right before he looks down and sort of pushes his cap a little bit further down.
Yeah.
And he just goes, mm-hmm. Thank you. I think I need to, and then I need
Yeah,
to
of course.
help with them. I will see you in the morning, and then he
Yeah,
sort of walks off.
cool.
All right.
Yay.
And Atlas, any last thoughts for this session?
Yeah, I think Atlas is in his tent, and you see him go to one of the tent walls, and he kind of pulls back one of the flaps of the tent where the walls overlap, and there he has a map of the United States, and he takes a marker and just marks off an X of where we are currently, and just sort of mutters to himself, "That was useless," and closes the flap, and returns back to his sleeping cart with Zoltar.
Awesome. And the last scene before the camera moves up into the darkening evening sky is Dolores sitting in a rocking chair in front of her caravan, and it slightly screeches, and you hear them wing, wing, all over the carnival ground, and she looks very happy. And that's where we will end this session of Crossroads Carnival. And sorry for going so extensively over time.
Nah, it's all good. Yeah, so let's go around, introduce our cast and crew. We'll get the hell out of here and go right in front of ours of the channel. So let's start with our wonderful GM tonight. Petra, who are you? Where can we find you on the internet? And what did you think of running this for the first time?
Yes, so hi, I'm Petra. You can find me on Twitter. Twitter handle is pfolkhausen. I'm going to put that in the link. Nerding around on different channels. Although I'm mainly active on Mike's channel at the moment. And yeah, this was cool, and I actually the words are failing me. Basically, I feel about the game that I expected to feel about the game at the end, namely that I think what's more important than the whole going out and dealing with, okay, what has befallen the city, is the character interaction and the character development, and because that is what I was really looking forward to, and I would like to see more of, just to see how your characters clash with each other's, and then I try to throw in a few things to tie back to your background stories, and so those were the things I think that I enjoyed most. And I probably made it a little bit too hard to deal with the blobber guy. I don't know. Sometimes things are very obvious in your head, and then when you on the side of the players, they're maybe not. But
It wasn't you.
And basically, it ended up the way I expected it to end up.
Cool.
Well, not really. Jake really wanted to connect to you, Evangeline. You rejected him.
It's not my type.
She likes doughy guys. Speaking of, Mr. Ninja, who are you? Where can we find you on the internet? And what did you think of Crossroads Carnival?
My handle's the same everywhere. I had a lot of fun with this game. I like that it is a little bit more about getting to know the characters and how they interact with each other more than like straight up combat. Because when I built my character, she doesn't do any fighting at all. Everything is like psychological for her.
Yeah, and we're heavily improvising on. Technically, that's not what the geek is doing, but I like the concept of just a living nightmare. So,
well, one of the things is Nightmare made flesh, one of her origins. So I just kind of built off of the whole nightmare psychological part. But I really like the game. I like the other characters, and I would definitely play this again.
Sweet. Let's jump over to Courtney. Courtney, who are you? Where can we find you on the internet? And what did you think of Crossroads Carnival?
I'm Cornelius, and you can find me here on Twitch and Twitter at the same, at Cornelius. I'm really surprised. I'm like pleasantly surprised by how this game went. I was kind of nervous because it is kind of more improv based than most of the other stuff that I play. But I really enjoyed how the characters kind of meshed together and just how it went overall. I would love to play this again and further explore my character.
Same.
Fantastic. And last but not least, the Pacific Northwest king of indie games himself, Eric Vulgaris. Eric, who are you? Where can we find you on the internet? And what did you think of Crossroads Carnival?
There's no king of indie games. I reject that title. That belongs to the people.
Sorry, the Tsar? Caesar?
No, I'm
Kaiser?
not an authority. Get that? I'm democratizing. I'm a communist of this shit. Karl Marx.
An
of indie
active
games.
member of the.
The Bernie Sanders of indie tabletop games.
I want us to seize the means of indie RPG production. Not in the hands of someone like me, no way. I'm Eric, everybody. Eric Vulgaris everywhere. I really like the story. It's a cool story.
It was a cool story. Yeah, I am no... this was a dope story. I really like the story. I am no Powered by the Apocalypse expert, but this game is Ashcan, which means it's essentially in pay-for beta. And there are spots where it can improve. But it was fun. This was a fun, interesting... I've never played this kind of Carnival-esque thing. And it was neat. I think the moves, there need to be more of them, or they need to be better, or something.
You mean like more practical? Like I felt that was perhaps something that was...
The moves were very constrained, and also none of them felt right. Like, none of them felt like what I was trying to do, so I was like, I guess I'll use this move. We all use
the same one.
Yeah, like, we only use the same, like, 2 moves the whole time, because all the moves were like, I guess it's that one. I guess. Yeah, I think that would be my biggest gripe with this, is that the moves didn't make sense for what we were trying to do. But other than that, the story was, in fact, super cool, and I'm glad we get to play this game. And as I said, it is essentially a buy this game and play the beta of it, because there's still more official stuff coming out. That is essentially what an Ashcan is. So it was fun for what it was, and the story was awesome. So I'm super glad you ran it for us, and I look forward to seeing what this game becomes in the final release. And with that, guys, we hit our goal. We crushed that 250. That means this is the 8th month in a row that we have hit or smashed our goal. We are over 6,000. I think we're over 6,500 for the channel, and well over 7,000 for the team. If you guys want to join the team, just shoot me a message. I'll get you guys a link for that. If you're not following us on all of our social medias, it's unMadeGaming everywhere, and I highly suggest you jump in our Discord, because that's where the party happens all the time. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thanks to all the DMs that played today. Thanks for all the players that played today. And with that, we're gonna go raid our friend Vanna, who's currently chillaxing with some dungeon keeper, or graveyard keeper rather. So yeah, go check her out. Give her all of your hot sticky raid love from all of us, and from all of us to you guys. Bye bye.